Tuesday, which means it's time to submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight are my co-hosts. First off, you know him, you love him, all the way from the Ripperverse. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? Welcome back to the greatest show on a Tuesday night on the internet, the High Council. Hail to you all. Thanks for joining us. Let's have some fun together.
We always do. Now, folks, we can't have fun with just the two of us. Well, we can, but we're not going to. We have another guest tonight, all the way from the Great White North, where it's cold, even though it's really cold here. Say hello to the Script Doctor.
Hello, happy to be here from the North Star State of the United States of America, pending.
Pending.
Good. Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Happy to make this a threesome to your pair of... It's a little Star Trek joke.
Phrasing.
Yes, exactly.
Are we is phrasing still a thing?
Everybody's still doing the phrasing. Absolutely. Okay.
That's from Archer, right?
Phrasing is from Archer, and the threesome joke is actually from season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Worf makes it as a statement, and then Riker says, "Do you even hear yourself?"
Well, you're going to be more well-versed in Star Trek Picard, because I checked out... What's the last episode of the original series?
The Turnabout Intruder? No, wait, yeah, the Turnabout Intruder. That's 79, right? The Star Trek with Kirk and them?
That's usually where I end it, with the original Star Trek. But I'd be lying if I didn't want to get that new Captain Picard doll that just came out. But, folks, I'll maybe review some new stuff that we got in the collection coming up. By the way, folks, before we start tonight's show, if you're a member of this channel, I went ahead and recorded some comic book collection stuff because I get emails all the time. Jeff, we want to see your collection. You go into Ollie's all the time. You go into these stores. You talk about stuff. We want to see what you own.
Hell yeah.
So, folks, we are going to start. I have gone and started with the comics because, well, I have access to my comics again, and I got some cool ones. So that'll be on the membership for you guys later this week. And if you're a patron, you'll get that as well. And if you want to see it and you really can't be a member or a patron, I'll send you guys out a minute clip or so. But these patron videos are about 15 minutes long each, and they cover a lot of books. To be fair, it's just 2 boxes of Spider-Man. There's like 8 more. So I hope you guys like Spider-Man or other comics because I got a lot of shit to show you guys in the collection. But other than that, I think it's time to start tonight's show because we have a lot of wonderful people here, like our friend Lewis. We have Kevin Flynn. We have TLJ Screwjob. We have Perez Backwards 1 Perez. We have Libra Wolf. We have Mexican Takeover, Dark Anubis, and a whole lot more like Paul Probus Jr. Now, folks, if we said hail to everybody that joined us each and every night, that's all we do is say hi to all of our new listeners. But we'll save that for a Good Morning Pop Culture. Speaking of, we gave you guys a surprise one yesterday for Martin Luther King Day, and if you caught it live, you caught it live.
Out.
I know, right?
I got the notification. I was like sitting here, sipping my coffee, getting ready to start my day, nice and ease into it, and all of a sudden, I get a notification on my phone. What the hell?
And so, yeah, folks, it was Kendo's idea. He goes, we should celebrate Martin Luther King Day the way the king would want, with a Good Morning Pop Culture. So Kendo brought us that idea, and folks, hopefully you enjoyed us. It was a 2-hour bonus episode right here on the channel. But we have to start today's show like we always do with the Word of the Day, brought to you by Shrebbles08. Now, this is a fun one, folks, because you know here on the channel, I always make food analogies and comparisons. And, well, the word of the day is a very delicious food. The word of the day is churro. Fistful of churro. How Stella got her churro back. Churro Wars, the Phantom Taco. Dude, where's my churro? Hot Churro Time Machine, Churro Wars, and Ray's Hot Churro. Well, if it's Ray's churro, it's probably going to be lukewarm at this point because, well, it's a little past its prime. But churro all the way. That'll be my first title.
That's pretty
what do
good.
you guys got?
Churros play.
Churro History X.
Ooh, that's dark. Churro Party.
Honey, I Shrunk the Churro.
Mulholland Churro.
Let's see.
Saving Private Churro.
Churro Head.
A Christmas Churro.
Clear and Present Churros.
Churro Hard with a Vengeance.
Churros of Champions.
The Dark Churro.
Churros of Fire.
That's a good one.
That sounds tasty, too.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Back to the churro.
It's a little kick to
Stop or my churro will shoot.
it.
Tango and churro.
Uh,
The
heavy
churro.
churro.
Churro Balboa.
Adrian, I want some churros. Dances with Churros, not without my churro. 2001, A Space Churro.
I like Dances with Churros. That's pretty
Shout
good.
out to Dark Anubis who did the Towering Churro. That's a brilliant one. Irwin Allen parody right there.
I wouldn't mind a towering churro.
History of the
Fun.
Churro, Part 1.
The Churro Adventure.
On Golden Churro.
Churro Planet.
The
Dragon
Hidden
Ball Churro.
Ooh.
Churro Ball Z.
Well, I may or may not be watching that in the background as I finish my book. So, folks, send in your churro titles all night long. Octo Churro is a pretty damn good one. But we have something funny to tell you guys. We have some news. So apparently, this is great news for some people who just want to poke fun at the bear. Captain America Brave New World ticket sales, the pre-orders, well, they're not looking too good because they're really just not too hot right now. So according to the box office analysts, they're nearly 1.5 times better than the Captain Marvel sequel, which is a really low bar. However, the 4th installment of the Captain America series are on par with the Eternals and nowhere near Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So movies that we thought were shit and nobody cared about. This Captain
And
America's
massive
lighting up.
failures.
Yeah, all massive failures. There's really no opinion on that. It's like, hey, I went into Ollie's. You guys can watch the newest video. You guys are really liking that one. But I can go into an Ollie's and I can show you all these characters that people don't like. And guess what? Their movies tend to flop too. There's usually a correlation between failing Marvel movie and copious amounts of toys at Ollie's. I don't know why that is. I've always said maybe the audience wants something they care about, but I could have been wrong, but I wasn't. Anyway, long story short, we have another flop in the making, it looks like, based on pre-order ticket sales. Are you guys surprised that people aren't hyped for this movie? Are you surprised that people are just ambivalent?
Well, considering how far away it is from Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series, which was the lead-in to this film, I think they missed their boat. I think if they did launch it, say within a year after that series, as what was initially projected, they probably wouldn't be worried about this. The numbers probably would be 2 or 3 times better, but still not great, but ideal enough for Disney to kind of hedge and say, it's a post-pandemic, we're getting into the back into the theaters. This is a good sign. But at this point now, this is more a reflection on the pattern that has been established with Disney's leadership of Marvel, that the quality's not there, so the hype is not there. This movie has been pushed back a number of times. It's been reshot a number of times. I am certain Disney has spent all of their pre-sale money on the production of this and post-production, so whatever else they're doing to cover the cost of this is coming out of something else. However, their marketing has been very, very minimal. I don't think they're using the normal traditional tentpole metric of 2 to 3.5 times the budget for circulation, because I haven't seen any billboards or digital billboards, no bus ads, no print ads, just a couple of social media stuff and things on YouTube and other streamers.
They probably don't want to spend any more money on the damn thing.
I don't think they can. I think that's the reason.
They're probably tapped.
Yeah, which I mean, it does help hedge their. I mean, I'm using hedge a lot today, but it does help hedge their bets on the global box office, because the less they spend on advertising, the less that they have to, worry about reaching that finish line after the theaters get their cuts, because the theaters get their cuts to pay off the pre-sales that Disney already got when they said we're doing this project. That's why you got that either 40 to 50 to 60% take on the theaters. That's them making their money back on the investment of financing this film, and giving them the window to showcase it at the theaters. And then the theaters get tons of, once that's paid off, the theaters then rake in a whole bunch of money. But one of the very reasons why theaters have been struggling the last 5-6 years, it's not just on streaming, but a lot of the movies that they pre-sale, specifically from Disney, aren't performing to the metric they need to sustain themselves, which is why theaters have now invested heavily on popcorn buckets to get people to come to their establishment. It's like when the LCS turns into a Magic the Gathering and plushie store. It's no longer about comics. It's about merch related to fandom. And theaters are now really about merch related to movies in the form of a popcorn bucket.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on this damn popcorn bucket. I love collectibles. I love pop culture junk, but popcorn. I'm sorry. At my heart, my core, I actually care about value. And you get such a. If you got a giant popcorn for a $50 bucket, then I wouldn't complain. But you get like the size of a small with one of these giant $40 to $50 buckets. That's where I draw the line. I get it that it's gaudy and you want it for the movie, but I actually would buy it if it held a lot of popcorn. Then it would feel like special.
It's also not sanitary because it's essentially cheap Chinese plastic, and that's poisoning the popcorn you're eating.
Oh, don't ruin the fun. Let me just ingest my carcinogens.
Just get the paper popcorn buckets or the.
I mean, it's not that much more dangerous than the freaking popcorn itself for you.
Well, that's probably going to change in the next year or so, where that butter is going to be made of real butter instead of corn.
Is that actually happening?
Looks to be that way, yeah. A lot of regulations have been stopped, in which case the next volley of things are rollbacks, reassessments, changes in what can and can't be exported, and what can and can't be ingested, because some of it is not legit food to be ingested by.
Oh yeah, I mean we finally banned what was it, red dye number, whatever the hell it was.
Red number 4 or something like that. Which
that one. 35 years ago, it was banned from being used in other products that you don't ingest, which is ironic.
What's funny is when it was invented, almost every other country except for the United States said, "Yeah, no, you're not allowed to put that in food that you export to us." So I've never seen it before.
The popcorn bucket thing. I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis, right? So some of them are cool, and I'm willing to spend. I think my Godzilla X Kong one was something like $25 or something like that. The thing's big; it's like this tall and this wide. Well, it kind of goes up like this, but it's cool. And if I'm a big enough fan of something, I want to, I like to show that off, right? As we all do as geeks, we like to show off our geek memorabilia and stuff that pertains to the stuff that we love and purport to love. But like, I could never be that guy that like gets it for every single big movie he goes to see. Like, I own one, and it's the Godzilla X Kong one. It was the first one that I bought. Unless something is insanely cool for something that I'm a diehard mega fan of, I'm good. That'll be the only one I own, and I'm fine with that.
Folks in the chat, what is your dream popcorn bucket? Mine would be a 2-scale Death Star popcorn bucket. It's no moon. It's a popcorn bucket. That's what I
thought it was the Dune one.
No, man, I just want to stick my hand in a popcorn bucket, nothing else.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, did they think that one through? Somebody did.
Know.
Somebody did, and nobody else did.
People know, and they don't care, because, look, we live in 2025, where everything's broken, and people will buy popcorn-shaped buckets that you can enjoy. I don't know why people would want to do that with your popcorn bucket, but that's a real thing. Go to Reddit, or don't go to Reddit.
No, I would avoid those subreddits. They're all
not where you want to be.
At least the alien one looked kind of cool, right? Maybe not.
I can't remember the alien.
It was a xenomorph head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was detailed. I'll give them that. It's not something I would have wanted.
I mean, that's the thing. It's really just a gimmick. And then the other part, too, is, sure, there's lots of collectors out there, but it comes back to the same problem that we faced with physical media in the 2010s, which is people were buying so much they had nowhere to put it. I mean, I knew
you only have so much space.
Yeah, I knew people that were renting storage lockers to hold their video movies and DVDs. And it's crazy. I mean, that's one of the reasons why streaming took off the way it was. It's like, oh, wait, I actually don't have to lose a whole room in my home to storing physical media. I can just watch it here. But then the caveat being is that, well, the hosters of those movies don't hold on to them forever. And so, yeah, the subscription you've made is pending the inventory that they have. And Netflix just announced that they're increasing prices across the board.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, they're going up at least $2 a tier for the deluxe tier, and then the first tier I think is going up just a single buck.
Yeah,
But either way, it's too much.
well, no, it's too much, but it's happening because Netflix is a tech company pretending to be a studio. Tech companies are rarely actually profitable. They always function at a loss because they write down their losses in order to maintain payroll and also maintain basic operations. The only reason that they would be increasing their prices is because they need to get bigger return on the investors, because the investors are the only ones that actually make money off of tech companies, not the tech company themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. And then it also goes into like back onto Disney. Captain America Brave New World is not going to do the numbers that it wants. However, that whatever debt they incur from that production, roll it into the Eternals, to the Marvels, Ant-Man, Quantumania, all those things, that can all be moved around and used against profits for any future productions, such as, like, say, an Avatar 3. If that makes over $1 billion, they can use all their losses from those Marvel movies against that, so they don't have to pay taxes on it. That makes it that makes it pure cash for them to invest in something else or use as collateral for something else, or pay off something else as well. There's no real downside to it other than on the optics. It's like, oh, look at this. Disney, the studio that was inflating box office numbers of an average of a few billion a year, is now unable to maintain that. And the rest of the industry has gone, well, maybe that's a good thing, because we know what the base metric of the annual box office should be and how it scales year over year. And the fact that we've had a decade where that scale has had a huge weight pushed down on it because of Disney's Marvel films has completely obscured the ability to see what the real data is with regards to audiences, what they spend, what they go see, why they see it, and how the industry is supposed to pay for itself. So we're in interesting times, as always.
Yep, like we always say, it's not fun to live through history, but we're living through history each and every day, it feels like. So, folks in the chat have answered about their popcorn buckets. Jason wants a Wokebusters popcorn bucket. You could make that happen.
That'd be a world-class popcorn bucket.
I'm trying to think, what would it would look like the Stay Woke Trickly Puff Mam's mouth. That would be the topper, and then it would just be a giant, because there's a part where the thing's mouth actually does open up really wide and these creatures fly out of it. So that's what it would be. That's the official Wokebusters popcorn bucket.
Well, you can save a lot of money. Just make it a lid to a general, your basic popcorn bucket template, and then just sell the lid and you can put it onto anything you got.
To be fair, I have a 3D printer, or access to 3D printing from multiple locations now. I could, in theory, make a Wokebusters popcorn bucket. But folks, I have looked into doing some kind of little figurine or statue for Stealing Solo 2, so that's about as much as I can promise in terms of trying stuff out.
I can picture what that might be, actually, without you saying it.
Yeah, I'm working hard on the next campaign beyond the book. I'm thinking, like, what can I give these people that is truly unique and different, as well as the people who missed out on the first one. And I'm always thinking about these things. But folks, you're here
maybe
to
do a
listen to
new
us.
cover for number one. Offer a new
For what?
cover?
For Wokebusters?
Oh, I misheard. I thought you were talking Stealing Solo.
Oh, I'm just doing. This is for 2. Number 1, there's about half a case of that original cover, but we're focusing on the new one. When the demand is there, we'll go to a second printing. But, well, the demand's almost there. Shit, I better look into that. Anyway, I need to be ahead of these things, like 5 steps. Our friend Lion Main Man has a great question. Hey guys, off topic, but would you guys be down for the Amazing Spider-Man Director's Cut? # release the web cut. Andrew, you're the web guy. Mark Webb, that is. What would you say to a director's cut?
I mean, I would love to see if there was actually a difference, because I know that there was a clash in visions between Webb and Arad, just as there was between Raimi and Arad. So, yeah, sure, why not? I'd be up for it. I don't know how many other people actually would be, because though those movies did well, they got crapped on a lot after the fact, and people didn't start saying, "Oh, we need an Amazing Spider-Man 3" until after they saw him in the mid-ass Iron Boy flick 3. on in the MCU. So I don't know how much stock I'd actually put in that, but I'd be up for it. Sure. I am, however, kind of sick of all it took was the stupid Snyder cut for me to be already over the whole like release the blah 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 cut, like, and people online like campaigning, oh, do this, and pushing studios to, it's like, forget about it. Like, it's over. I'm not expecting, were it to ever happen, sure, cool, I'd watch it, but like, it's not something I would expect to all of a sudden make them a ton of money.
Well, Sony won't want to spend any money for it because it's Sony. Not only that, Sony wouldn't allow for it. Again, they've been burned a couple of times already with certain fan movements. They're going to be
It's
very
Morbin time.
Exactly, they're going to be very apprehensive to that. John Rothman, who's head of Sony, one of the things he probably won't want to do is do that, because that gives more money to Amy Pascal, who nobody at Sony likes because they fired her from it, but she's got a condition with regards to the Spider-Man character film rights where she's attached to them all. So every Spider-Man movie or adjacent movie that they make, she gets a paycheck for. They don't like that, and they want to figure out a way around that, and so far they haven't been able to do so, unless, of course, somehow Sony decides not to make a Spider-Man or Spider-Verse style film, live action film, for 5 years, in which case the rights revert technically to Disney. Mm-hmm. And all contracts that Sony had would become null and void.
I think it's about time to do that, because you can only damage the brand so much. Look at Star Wars.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if John Rothman and Sony are trying to push an early termination of that contract by way of a monetary settlement, saying like, we will sell you these extra years so we at least get some money out of this investment we've had for almost 3 decades. Mm-hmm. That started to pay off at the beginning and then has not since.
No.
So we'll see what happens. I don't think Disney really wants to buy anything right now. They're willing to hold out.
Yeah, what else is there for them to buy?
It's just the Spider-Man characters. That's it, and then Hulk from Universal, because they technically don't have that yet.
Well, Lion Mane Man, to answer your question, even though I dislike those movies, since I sat through the Snyder cut of Justice League, if they actually did a full edit of a Mark Webb edit, I would watch it, just because, like, I want the Joel Schumacher cut of Batman Forever. That's the one where I actually do want it, because I stand by Batman Forever. People dump on it because they mistake it for Batman and Robin. Is it as good as Batman 89? No, it is not. Is it better than some other Batman movies? Yes, it is. And the fact that there's a more serious cut with some tonal differences, sign me up, because I feel like it could be something pretty cool.
The only thing I'm curious of is, did they shoot the scene where Bruce Wayne, dressed as Batman, makes it with Chase Meridian? Like he just keeps the cowl on and everything else is off.
How do you... We saw that the suit, the pants are like a full part of, like a full piece. So like, if Batman's gonna try to get it on, he's got to like roll himself out of. I can imagine him going like, Alfred, Code Sigma now, and all of a sudden a second like the Bat copter rolls in and Alfred just lands. He's like, all right, Batman, let's get you out of this thing. Well, then Batman gets busy.
You're not wrong, but that's the joke. When you see that shot of Val Kilmer after he's been rescued by Dick Grayson, he's wearing the pants and he's got like what looks like this rubbery thing, kind of cummerbund thing. That's supposed to be the rest of the suit rolled down around his waist to sort of convey that when he puts it on, it just enhances the muscular physique he's already there. It's not a thick black rubber suit the way you think it is. It's a different technology. Yeah, I know. It's weird, but it was in I think the draft before Akiva Goldsman got his paws on it, and I think it was remained after for a couple of times, and it might have been part of the shooting script, but I don't like. There was no actual act of love. It was just they make out, you do your cut, and then they come back, and Batman is just wearing the cowl and he's getting dressed.
That's something I don't ever want to see in a movie. Because his suit is, it's just a big rubber condom. That's what the bat suit is. So it's like, okay. I just want like I want there to be a scene to show how impractical it would be for him to actually try to hook up with a woman as Batman. I think it would be
With that suit, oh yeah, like with the Adam West suit, that's easy.
yeah. Because I mean, they were having all those weird orgies on set anyway. Have you heard those stories?
I have heard the stories. Yes.
It's just like, damn, this is Batman. It's supposed to be campy, not a gangbang, but whatever.
Well, I mean, there's things where lots of male actors inadvertently groped the female actors, and lots of the female actors inadvertently groped the male actors. Yeah, it was a time of free love, you know.
I guess.
Batman was getting it. Good for Batman. But, you know, like you said, it was a different time. Oh, it was a different time. Thank you, though, Lion Mane Man. You know, I wonder how many different cuts of this Captain America movie have been assembled so far. Because clearly, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, dude, like, I would love to be the tester. Like, I know they're not technically what they're called, but, you know, there's game testers. I would love to be that for Marvel movies. And they just ask me, all right, does this one work? Yes or no? If not, tell us why.
Well, that's your test audience. Pages. And in this case here, you'd have Marvel Studios Presents Editors Assemble, because you'd have to figure out how many cuts you had.
Maybe that's the future, man. Maybe we're going to get some magic in the editing room. Or maybe we're just going to get... I have a feeling that this movie's going to flop really hard, but it's going to be a lot like Blue Beetle, where it's not great, but there are worse movies out there. That's how I'm guessing this new Captain America
There's always going to be worse movies. It'll be rated against what's its place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it'll probably be not necessarily the bottom quarter, but probably the one above that.
I like Anthony Mackie, but this swapping mantles will not work on the big scale. And so hopefully Disney's going to learn that the hard way. But I get it. They make all their money from their theme parks. But this year, they're facing big competition from Universal with that, what is it, Dark World or whatever it's called?
There's the Dark World. There's also Nintendo Land or whatever it is. Yeah, it's gonna be tight. I mean, the Disney parks they're pricing out their guests essentially. Like, that's basically it. Like, even in the 90s when my parents decided, I don't know why they did. We spent more time at Universal Studios anyways, but we went to Disney World in Florida. I mean, that was still a really expensive trip for the 1990s.
Yeah, we did it too.
And you I mean, in some cases, some families hear about their family saving up for it for a couple of years before they go.
Yeah.
That's just how expensive it was. And then there was only a brief point, I guess in the late 90s, where there was a huge sale that was just ongoing where you can get like a season pass for like a flat rate. And I know that my aunt and uncle did that because they loved Disney, and that's why probably some of my cousins are messed up today. But yeah, like you look at the normal prices, you're looking to spend maybe $10,000-$15,000 on the charitable side just for a weekend at Disney World, or then for Disneyland, only people who live in California would really take advantage of that, because you can buy the cheap pass where you don't actually have to worry about accommodations.
It was great for Universal when I lived out there, but I never went to Disney once. There's not any value in a couple, like, oh, we're going to go there and we're going to get fast passes for X amount of dollars and do this and do that. It's also, I prefer big thrilling rides. I want a bigger experience, not, oh man, it's Main Street USA and it's Goofy and Mickey. Do Goofy and Mickey move tickets anymore? Like, I don't think they did even when I was a kid 30 years ago. We were all like, Mickey Mouse is lame, but Buzz Lightyear's kind of cool. I don't get it.
I mean, I honestly don't know.
Goofy was funny when I was there because he would come in and out of various buildings, but he'd always hit his head against the trim of the door and then stumble. And it was all done deliberately, and it was done well because it was a good performance. But outside of that, like, we had the Ninja Turtles were there, which was pretty cool, signing autographs and taking photos with stuff. And then there's a bunch of other little characters all wandering around the park that were not as far as I know at the time owned by Disney, but they had some sort of agreement with them. So I mean, that was weird. But then when you go to Universal, you've got like an Indiana Jones ride, you've got a Star Wars ride, and then at Disney you also have a Star Wars ride. It was all weird. It was just like you felt like it was all one giant theme world that you were in, even though they're very owned by different companies.
I'm just sad I missed out on the Ghostbusters experience when they did the show with Beetlejuice. Like that's like 90s kids' dream. It's like, oh man, Beetlejuice gets trapped by the Ghostbusters? All right, let me watch that show. But I never made it that back then. I think I went in 1996 when Pizza Planet was the new attraction. And Star Wars, what was that called? Fuck.
There was these Star Tours.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That was cool.
They changed that every couple of years. That was really cool. There was the Star Tours, and then on the same ride, you would go into, I know what the movie is, but you shrink down and you go inside somebody's body and you have to kill some viruses.
Oh,
Fantastic Voyage. Fantastic Voyage.
I almost called it Inner Space.
Inner Space is a spiritual sequel to that.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
No, I get it that, they're not going to be hurting for money as a company, but you can't look at it and go, oh man, Marvel as a brand is going to be hitting hot in 2025. Like, nobody has any faith in Captain America, but I'd say more people have faith in the Fantastic Four out of curiosity. But this is really Superman's game to lose this year. I think more people are curious about what Superman's going to be, what he represents, what DC's going to do, because it's been 10 years of disappointment. So hopefully that's what DC does. They entertain us this year. They blow us out of the water. And hopefully Marvel doesn't stink up the joint too bad to turn people off of all comic book movies, because that's my guess with
it's James Gunn's and DC's game to lose, just as you said, because they're coming out swinging with this tentpole character, right? That is recognizable. Everybody knows who Superman is, unless you're a Snyderite. And if it's actually a good movie, if it's actually filled with hope, it's actually fun, and on top of that, they didn't spend an insane amount of money on it comparative to what Disney tends to spend on these MCU films these days. Like, they could start actually gaining some ground, right? Because to say that Marvel Studios is, on their back foot, it would be an understatement, because they haven't put out anything really worth a damn in years now.
That's right. And then the other part,
they've got the opportunity. It's just like, okay, you have the opportunity now, right? The ball is yours. Do something with it. Please.
Yeah, don't miss. The other part too, you also have to remember, is that the reported budget spent for Superman, that money didn't all go to the production or post-production. That $380 million that was reported from some of the taxes, I guess, because even James Gunn and others at DC were like, well, we know where that number came from, but that number did not go all to Superman. So it's gone to something else. It's been amortized across other things. I suspect probably Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and maybe another thing that they were working on or establishing somewhere. So we'll see what those final breakdowns are. James Gunn, I hope he pulls it off, because if he doesn't, what ends up happening is that your comic book and more importantly superhero adaptations will go the way of the Western, where they'll still be being made, but they'll be far more catered to a niche thing. They'll probably be like that weird space between X-Men and Batman Begins, where you had a couple of superhero films that were very low budget, low tier, low circulation. And that might be a place where they have to be for a while. And I'm not going to be bothered by that, because that compels the people making them to try and make them the best they can without that
under a smaller budget.
Exactly, with that bigger thing. And you know what? That's probably a better fit for something like Batman. I would love to see a mystery, like a true-hearted mystery of Batman, where it's not multiple fight scenes, multiple spectacles, all for the sake of like, oh, look what we can do with this computer effects and the volume and all that type of stuff. I'd rather have something more akin to like say the Sherlock Holmes films, where your brain is stimulated and you're trying to figure out how he does that and whatnot. And the fact that, I think I know what the third thing that they spent the money on is Clayface, because they announced that movie's going into production with Alan Tudyk. And rumor has it that Batman may make his appearance there in that film, which would make sense.
It
You
would,
sold
but
me
that's
on
such
Alan
an
Tudyk.
odd choice. Like, that's a great actor. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know.
I can see a lot of potential with a Clayface film. I just don't know why they would name it Clayface. And part of me is thinking that, just like with Superman Legacy was renamed to Superman, Clayface might just be a placeholder title for something that might be a little bit more appropriate.
Maybe it's Batman
is
Clayface.
the perfect title.
Yeah.
Right?
Because guess what? Andy Muschietti, he was spouting stupid a couple weeks ago about The Flash.
Yeah, it was.
I do not believe he is still in line to direct Batman Brave and the Bold or anything at Warner Brothers under the DC label at this point.
Why would you let him? Think of it from a business standpoint. It's like, hey, I get it. You directed it. You did a great job with those kids. Then you come in and you direct The Flash and you shit the bed. Like, I'm not going to put him on a superhero movie. I'll put him on other stuff, but if I'm Warner Brothers, I don't trust him to do a superhero ever again.
Well, he was also the director who is not smart enough to realize, like, hey, we're shooting with kids. We better get all the footage we need for them before they age up by the next movie, because we do know that this is It Part 1. And while the sequel is conditional, we better budget in to get the kids' backstories and flashback stuff done now, because when we come back in 2 years, some of those kids are going to be either finished puberty or in the midst of it.
Yeah, changing voices, changing stature.
I mean, that's what the director of the TV movie that did with Tim Curry said. It's like, no, I had to shoot all the kids right away because I knew that in a couple of months they would not look the same that they did when we were starting production, because that's how kids go.
Yeah.
And that's why, for the most part, when you do have children in your story, you try to get them into the age where a 16-year-old could probably pass for a 12-year-old, and that's why you have those 20-year-olds playing 16-year-olds and whatnot, because you have a long shooting window. And guess what? Like myself, I grew over a foot in 4 years, which meant that if you break that up evenly, that's about 3.5 inches a year. That's pretty quick for a kid to grow. And you don't really want to have to deal with that on set, because there's measurements are done when you're filming. So how many feet away is the actor from the camera? How high is the camera from that? How do we keep that shot consistent when we're doing line of sight, eye line, and not trying to break the axis or the 180 rule? Well, you have all those measurements done, but the moment that your actor changes height, whether they shrink, which is very rare, or they grow an inch, everything you've done up until that point has to be readjusted.
Right.
And it's a nightmare. It's why I don't write stories about kids. It's just...
Well, I've heard that Stranger Things spent a lot of money on CGIing the kids to look younger, because they all look 40 now.
Well, I mean, like, what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown, who plays 11, who looks like a female Jason Mewes, I mean, to put it lightly. Not like she's bad, just like she looks like Jason Mewes' kid. and if those two ever do act together in a film, they better be father and daughter, because that is convincing. But she's a full adult now.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's married now.
She's married.
She just got married.
What are you going to do for your final season? Are you still going to keep them in? What are they? They just entered high school, I think, in the latest one, or in the early years of high school.
I've never seen an episode, so I couldn't say.
I can't remember.
They're in high school still. They're like in California, they were on their way back. I don't know, man. Season 4 was better than 3, but the show has progressively gotten dumber, and I like that show.
I mean, you know what's crazy is that Stranger Things, its arc and its development, kind of further solidifies the accusation that came about after the success of the first season, that the guys that made Stranger Things were not the sole creative force behind it, that they borrowed from some other short films and things that were circulating around that era. And this is the truth part of Hollywood, why merit matters, because if you steal an idea and you run with it, I'm not saying that the guys at Stranger Things did, but if you do, unless you keep finding some new talent to steal from and call your own, you're eventually going to get found out, and you're never going to work in town again, and people are going to see the actual quality you deliver. The other side of that being is sometimes people only have one hit under their belt.
It's true.
So
there are people that only have and I think it's actually probably true of most creatives, that they do have a finite number. Now, some of them, it might be a number that they'll never reach because, they're just that good. And so whatever that ceiling is, the likelihood of them actually getting to it is basically nil. But there are plenty of writers who can write a couple of real bangers, and then after that, they're kind of tapped. You see this in comics a lot with long-running runs by a specific creative team on a given character, a given title, where they'll have one arc, 2 arcs, sometimes 3, that are like, oh, wow, this is really solid. This is good stuff. And then you hit that 4th arc, and you're like, oh, what happened? Did you run out of ideas?
Or he swung for the fences and didn't know how to stick the landing. That's a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it gets away from you. Maybe you got a little too big for your britches.
You don't have good editors to basically say, "Hey, you sure about this? Let's actually have a meeting and
dial it back a little bit,
storyboard and just hammer out where do you think this is going? How do you think this is going to fit?
Let's have some sort of a writer's summit here to actually map out to you how this would affect aversely everything else." My way of doing this.
Like DC used to do that annually. I don't know if they do that
they used
anymore.
to do their DC summits annually. Yeah, I don't know.
What are we going to do for the next 12 issues? Well, we'll do this across these titles. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then,
Chuck Dixon talks about them all the time when he does his Ask Chuck Dixon videos every week.
Oh, yeah.
People ask him about various times of him working at DC and writing characters over there. And, sometimes he'll mention, we were doing this summit this time. I was hanging out with so-and-so. We were all discussing what the plan was going to be for the coming year. This is going to be what kind of the initiative is and all that. That kind of collaboration is actually very intelligent to do. Get everybody on the same page. When you're talking about an interconnected, expanding universe, you want your writers on the same page.
Yeah, the documentary for Death of Superman has a great great experience of that from all the writers, what they were doing around the room, and then how they managed to nail that story arc and set it up and pay it off.
I just always think back to that documentary when Louise Simonson starts crying as she talks about the death of Superman. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you're emotionally invested. I think that book kind of sucks, looking back on it.
It's very gratuitous, but but when she was saying that, I understood exactly what she was talking about, because she's like, you got Ma Kent dealing with the loss of her child, you got Lois dealing with the loss of her fiance, you've got the world dealing with the loss of their hero, and the other part too, which is funny, that story is technically the first time, narratively speaking, that Superman has borrowed from the New Testament with regards to Jesus's resurrection. Of the death and return, because up until that you'd have covers with Superman like tied to a crucifix or something of that nature, but the story had nothing to do with that at all, because it was just a gimmick. But that would be 92, 93 would be the first year that the Jesus and Superman was actually kind of paired together, and I don't think it's really a good thing to do for Jesus or Superman, but it happened.
Because it's more of a Moses thing than Jesus, but whatever.
Because listen, the story of Jesus is that he was sent here to save mankind from their sins. The story of Superman is not that he was sent to Earth to save humanity. He was sent to Earth because Earth was the only place he, as a child, would have a chance to survive. And him growing up,
his father was trying to save him.
Exactly, his father was trying to save him, and then now that he's an adult and he doesn't need saving anymore, he's like, well, now I can pay it forward. This planet saved me. I am now going to save it. It's a reciprocal thing. I hate the idea of destiny saying that your main character has to be a hero because this third-party character has told that character he's going to be a hero, that takes all the choice and heroism away from him, because now he is a slave to a higher power to do what is right, as opposed to someone finding internally, discovering the idea that their destiny is to be this hero and forging it themselves, as opposed to it being dictated from a voice from the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as cool.
No, I think people try to deconstruct to a point, and you just, I don't know, you lose everything when you try to break it down. Sometimes you don't need to know why or how or go deeper, but leave it to modern entertainment. We're going to break everything down 12 different ways, so we don't have to make anything new.
Mm. The new stuff's out there. It's just hard to find. That's the problem.
Yeah, I go backwards, sadly. Well, not even sadly. I just have gone back to watch classic movies, classic shows, classic anime. I don't know. It keeps me motivated. Plus, I find quality in it every time I watch it. I find and discover new things. But I'm always willing to give, new stuff a chance. It really has to blow me away. Like that Taron Egerton movie that dropped around Christmas time, the one that's in the airport. It's like Die Hard 2. I thought that was a good movie. I enjoyed that. So there are things out there that are fun, but it's not every week. But it's also I think we're out of a lot of the like quote unquote woke reboot, the all female reboot or this or that. I don't think there's any money in it anymore.
There's no money in that method of the execution. Like here's another quote from Star Trek for you. So and I'll pair it like this. So there's supposedly going to be 3 new ambassadors to Hollywood, or 3 new Hollywood ambassadors to the president, mind you, Jon Voight, Stallone, and Mel Gibson. But to quote Star Trek is, well, thank you, Mr. Scott. You've repaired the barn doors after the horses have come home. Hollywood's already started fixing themselves, with exceptions to Disney. So now you've got these 3 guys who are going to do what? Just cheer on the progress of Hollywood righting the ship? I mean,
well, Stallone has always been involved with some kind of president's shit because he and Ronald Reagan were tight.
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan liked his movies and what he represented. It's kind of weird that Stallone's doing it again, but whatever.
Well, I mean, Ronald Reagan was also the former president of the SAG-AFTRA. He is despite what a lot of people who want to rewrite history say, even though he was part of the conservative Republican Party, all of his ethics were basically of anti the man, which is the government, which would be classical liberal. Leave us alone. Let us have our freedoms. Don't overregulate us. Don't tell us how to live. The conservative was
these days that would mean more close to a libertarian.
Well, I mean, libertarian is just going one more step to the extreme, which is almost to the point of like abolish government, but not quite. But yeah, I mean, that's just the point. I mean, that's why Reagan did so well in the elections, both of them that he had. He appealed to both sides of the aisle. It's just the same that some of the stuff that he did in the 80s kind of caused a huge negative ripple effect for the 90s.
Yeah.
But now we've got a new administration. Hopefully they can gut all of that stuff that happened over the last 50, 60 years and get you guys back on track, because that'll be a great inspiration for the rest of the world.
I hope it happens. I want to be optimistic, but I don't know. I'm just being honest. I've lived through too much history over the last 5 years. I don't trust anything anymore. I don't believe anything anymore.
Even better.
Yeah, the X-Files taught me very well, okay? I grew up.
The truth is out there and everyone's hiding it from you.
Yeah. What a great show. Did you get into Twin Peaks back in the day? Since David Lynch passed away, I thought we'd mention him.
Oh, God. Yeah, I watched it when it first came out with my folks. Revisited it again when they did the follow-up, I think in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I like David Lynch's messed up ways.
I didn't. I was surprised when he passed away because I saw the article like 10 minutes after it dropped, and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize anything was wrong with David Lynch. So,
well, he was fighting, I think, emphysema, and I suspect that because of the fires and he was in close proximity to them, that kind of sped things along, unfortunately.
That's sad.
it's tragic because that was a guy who, man, incredibly genuine with his thoughts on art and his thoughts on everything. He was unironic about it, even though on the surface you'd think there's got to be some level of irony here, but nope, it wasn't there. And anytime you read any of his work or saw what his ideas were going to be, you would always like be fascinated by like how the hell did he come up with this?
I just think of Eraserhead. That's the first one I ever saw, I think.
That took like a decade to make.
Eraserhead took a decade to make.
Oh yeah, they made it on nothing, and the main actor had to keep that hairstyle for that entire time.
Oh,
I would have told David Lynch no.
I'd have shot myself in the face.
It took a long time to make that movie, yeah, but it paid off.
Did it?
I mean, well, listen, it's a cult
for David
classic.
Lynch. It did.
Oh yeah, for David Lynch, it definitely did.
I just think of just that fucking baby and the lady with the weird mutton chops.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird one. Folks,
is.
if you haven't seen it, check it out.
I mean, I showed my girlfriend Mulholland Drive recently, which is ironic because my longtime girlfriend, before we broke up in my early 20s, but when we were teenagers, she's the one that showed me Mulholland Drive just after it left theaters and went on to DVD. And then when I realized that was the same guy that did Twin Peaks, I was sold. I was like, I gotta start watching everything of his. So.
So, folks, check out his work if you haven't seen it. Sometimes we want to expand your horizons here on the channel. It's not all Star Wars and Marvel. Hell, I rarely watch. I don't watch Marvel anymore. I can assuredly say that. I may read comics and watch other stuff, but I'm not popping in MCU movies anymore. If somebody's like, "Do you want to watch Guardians?" I'm gonna say no every time. I'm over it.
Yeah.
It's not just that one, it's just any of them, really. Xavier DeGod asked, did you see that Sony and Disney are making a new Spider-Man show? Oh, you mean that crappy one? Okay, that one that looks crappy with, like, Black Norman Osborn? Yeah, I know all about it. Just because I don't make content complaining about it doesn't mean I'm not aware of it.
It looks so bad.
I absolutely won't watch it.
I mean, it's off because I know what Disney's trying to do here. They're trying to make it, let's make it modern day. What's the demographic of, say, Manhattan Magnet School? Oh, it's this? All right, let's use that paintbrush for our characters, excluding Peter Parker because, you got to keep one. And I'm like, yeah, that's really bad thinking. I mean, sure, if you take a look at the comic books, because they're written in the 60s and it's predominantly right in that area, that's how it is. But keep the characters the same. But use this opportunity, especially for Disney's, like, if you want to have characters that represent current day, you make new characters to contribute to the stories. Kind of like how you'd have those random stories where Peter's like, oh, I'm doing this. And then here's this brand new character that we've never seen before who's going through a problem, and Peter's going to help them as Spider-Man. And then it's a one-off, and we never see them again. Those types of stuff. That's the traditional way you would integrate that without mucking around with with those things just for the sake of trying to make it more current era. And keep in mind, this cartoon show was voiced and written about 3 years ago, and now we're seeing the first signs of it. It's most likely going to have 2 seasons because that's usually how the model is for a cartoon show these days. Is they commit to 2 seasons, which would most likely be 8 to 10 episodes a season, which traditionally when we were kids would be 22 episodes, which would be the mid 90s would be the standard for mid 90s, because prior to that it was always like 60. Like order 60 episodes, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, we're done. And that's all you get.
Just like James Bond Jr.
James Bond Jr., Batman the Animated Series, He-Man, She-Ra, Super Friends, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, and Spider-Man were I kind of paired together a little bit, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, both 1981.
Yeah.
I prefer the solo Spider-Man series, but
me too. He fights Dr. Doom in the first episode.
That I had that on tape as a kid. Dr. Doom, Master of the Universe or Ruler of the Universe, whatever it was called. I love that episode. That was just my first introduction to Spider-Man as a character. So when people are like, "Oh, what's your earliest memory of a character?" That episode. Like maybe once every 2 or 3 years I'll pop that episode on and it takes me right back. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember what it's like to be a kid again in the early 90s, pre-Spider-Man the animated series." Watching that, playing with my crappy little Toy Biz Spider-Man figure, reading the comic books. It was a good time. I'm reading the chat what people are saying about this new Spider-Man show. That doesn't seem like people are interested in it. Spider-Man, let's see, shake my head. Modernism equals narcissism. The proof is in the pudding. I'm not interested in narcissistic Spider-Man. That's just not my my jam. Maybe was it Megalomaniacal Spider-Man? That's actually a comic book. Check it out. But we will. I don't know. Maybe we'll review it down the road in a year or two. I couldn't even get through Star Wars, like the Skeleton Crew. Can't even remember the name. Couldn't even sit through that one, folks. I tried, but I stopped watching it. Then I tried to go back to it last week, and I couldn't do it.
Jude Law's not enough for that show, man. I mean, he's the best part of it. The kids are a mixed bag, and I'm sorry, I hate the little male lead, the Whim kid. I don't like him. I just there's something. It's not his physical appearance or anything like that. There's just something going on with him. Like his age doesn't line up with his attitude, type of deal. I think that's what's off for me. He looks too old for the immaturity that he's got.
I agree with that. He also looks like my friend's kid, so I'm just like, oh, your son is now in Star Wars. So it's like, honestly, it looks like D2. That's the joke. Like, I went up there to see him over Christmas. I'm like, hey, did you know you're in the new Star Wars show? He goes, ew, Star Wars.
Wow. I just can't bring myself to watch something that I have zero interest in just to see a dumpster fire anymore.
It's not even a dumpster fire. That's the thing.
It's not. It's
I'm referring to the Spider-Man show, not Skeleton Crew. I've heard Skeleton Crew is actually just like kind of all right. It's fine.
It's actually
it's nothing to write home about, but it's also not Ahsoka or the Acolyte, right?
It's actually one of the few. It's probably one of the few series with along with Acolyte that is less about the fact that it's a Star Wars show about Star Wars. It's more about these kids trying to get back home. It's got that Space Cases, Nickelodeon thing about it. It drops the ball a couple of times with the parents that could have actually really given you something extra going on. But it tries. It's John Watts and Jon Favreau and them, and I think the Filoniisms are just too hard to overcome at this point.
Good old Dave Filoni. That's who they wanted.
That's who some people wanted, not I.
Not me. But he's not going anywhere soon, and part of me is hearing that Carrie Beck might be the successor to Kathleen Kennedy, if and when she decides to bow out.
Is it tomorrow?
If it's tomorrow,
this year for sure.
I will tell you this: when Carrie Beck steps in, there's not going to be any change to Star Wars because she's been trained by Kathy of what to do and how to do it and why to do it this way. So
she just might be even worse.
Yeah, she's if Kathy's Plagueis, Carrie Beck's Palpatine. That's it.
I just laugh from the point of there's literally nothing you can do to get the fans to watch. You brought back every actor. Mm-hmm. They came and they went, and now you're just picking at a corpse. You're vulture.
Yeah, you put freaking Hayden Christensen in Ahsoka. Still nobody watched it. You you did the Kenobi show, and you brought back Ewan, who was the star of the prequels. Not that many people watched it.
Is it time to have the conversation, though, that the prequel nostalgia doesn't bring in much money?
I mean,
I think it's less to do with just the prequel nostalgia. It's that we just know that the brand is tainted at this point. Like, if the pitch for the Kenobi series had been a faithful adaptation of the Kenobi novel, I guarantee the EU fans and prequel fans would have shown up for that. But the thing is, the brand was already damaged at this point. We were already on the outs. You got the short high of Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, And then after that, we were like, oh, that's all they've got. Like, now we're just going downhill. And we found out very early on with the Kenobi series, oh, well, Obi-Wan's going to fight Vader again. Well, that never happened. And they just, every single decision they kept making gave the people who otherwise would have been on board with watching the Kenobi series, myself included, because he's my favorite character from like that era of Star Wars, right? All the reason in the world to not tune in. So I don't think it's necessarily a matter of prequel nostalgia not having the impact. I think it's just the impact of just crap product after crap product after crap product building up to the point where we just no longer care. And that's continued to carry forward.
It also carries all that merchandise forward to Ollie's. Folks, check out the video I dropped this week. A lot of you are watching that one.
That was a good plug.
Thank you. I live it 24/7, man. Like wrestling, they say live your gimmick. Well, I live mine. By the way, folks, like I said at the beginning of the show, I did work for the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. Yes, go to the NWA's website and you'll see artwork and merchandise designed by me. That was my big surprise that I was working on last week. I will tweet about it this week, but yes, I have worked for the NWA and it was pretty damn cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Dude, I was excited. I was like, cool, that's another thing to add to the portfolio. I've done movies, I've done other stuff, and now wrestling merchandise. Next on my bucket list is a beer label. So,
cool.
Once I do that, yeah, I don't know why I want to design a beer label. I just always have, because I used to really drink a lot of beer, and I thought it would be cool. So, folks, when that happens, I will let you know where you can buy the beer I designed the logo for. But you can go to the NWA's website right now and buy that t-shirt. I'll make a big announcement on Thursday with the guys proper. I'm glad you guys like the merch videos so much. Adjacent stuff is coming your way, but I have so much fun looking at that because, well, it's a physical representation of what we all have known for all these years, Disney Star Wars or Disney Marvel. It's for a weird portion of people on Twitter, and those people on Twitter don't make up enough people to move the needle. So there you go, folks. You can check that out right now on the channel. So, guys, I'm going to guess that Captain America makes 45... No, I'm going to guess it makes like 80 million its opening weekend.
Is that global?
Much?
Global.
Global? Yeah, that seems about right.
Really? That's more than I would expect it,
Well,
honestly.
you have to
I'm
remember,
putting it more at 60.
European markets with Marvel always outperform the domestic right now. Because
Really?
they don't care. They don't have the same metric. There's the benefit of the dub or the not knowing English and the right and all the weird synonyms and homonyms and terminology as well. So when it gets localized out there, or they that just get the subtitles, they're just there to see the action. They don't care about anything else.
Right. Interesting. I never thought about that perspective.
Their own movies, they're way like that are made for them domestically. They care way more about the same. They have the same metric that we do.
Right.
It's just like when we're watching, say, a martial arts film and we don't know Japanese and there's no subtitles. Well, we kind of gloss over the character moment stuff when we fixate on the fights. For instance, like The Raid. That's a prime example of that.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's ever told me the character arc that goes on The Raid. You know, but there is one with regards to his brother and why he's doing this. But, you know, most of the people that I've met that have seen The Raid 2, they don't talk about the stuff that isn't the fight scenes.
That's all I can think of is the fight scene up the stairwell or the fight scene in the... That's a great movie.
The fight scenes.
You know, the fight scene with the fluorescent light bulb in the guy's neck.
Oh, yeah, when the guy gets stabbed in his liver and it bleeds out black.
Yeah.
Ooh. Andrew, you should watch The Raid.
I've seen the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, then you should watch the second one.
I should. I agree with that statement.
But, I mean...
I just need to find time.
there's the parallel for you, right? Like, foreign movies that you don't know the language to, you pay attention to stuff that translates the easiest. And for international audiences, when it comes to Marvel films, those set pieces, those action set pieces are what do it, and people will go back for that. Heck, Kraven the Hunter did decent overseas because of the action scenes, which were the best part of the film, even though some of the special effects on it were wonky.
That's right. You were saying that the action sequences in that were actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the climactic fight with Rhino, because Rhino physically changes size, like
That's a
he's
quick
8
way to
feet
throw
in one
people off
shot,
of
and then he's 8 feet in one shot, pinning up Craven against the truck, and then we go to a wide, and he's now like 6 feet, pinning up Craven, and they're like eye level. It's just like it was weird. I know it's been now streaming on demand right now. I might stream it just to laugh because I was laughing in the theater with the Film Threat guys for that entire movie. And there's only about 7 other people aside from our crew in there. And fortunately, we did not have to apologize them because I think our laughter and our commentary made their night because there were big smiles and a couple of thank yous to us as we left, and they stayed to the end of the movie, so they didn't complain that they wanted their money back because a bunch of 40-year-olds were not on the screen.
I do love a good crowd, though. They can make or break a terrible movie.
Mhm.
They can, but isn't it kind of weird that we've gotten to a point where, as I said earlier, you have a group of 40-year-old men watching a movie and they're acting like the obnoxious teenagers, except the fact that the movie is bad, as
Yeah.
opposed to like it's a good movie and they're just obnoxious teenagers trying to get away from their home, and jerk around in the back.
I think everybody acknowledges that a bad movie deserves to be ridiculed and feel bad for being bad.
True. And you know what's crazy is that J.C. Chandor, who directed that film and co-wrote it, is actually a really good filmmaker. So this is very much a whole studio or maybe Avi Arad meddling debacle. So
Has he made so much money for other people that he's pretty much locked in for the rest of his career, or is there a way to get rid of that guy?
Avi Arad?
Yeah,
he's. I think. Well, he's also partly attached to the Sony deal. You can thank Ike Perlmutter for that. But yeah, I think he's around for a while until people no longer want him. I think if Sony loses their Spider-Man rights to Disney, Avi's now would be separated from that. He would no longer have a stake in it and no longer have his name associated with those movies. And he would have to go try and do his other things. He's already trying to get his claws into the Nintendo franchise with Legend of Zelda. He's apparently
Don't tell me he's trying to be attached to that.
he is.
He is, yeah. Yeah.
He did Borderlands.
Oh well, yeah. There's a
Eli
vote
Roth.
of confidence.
Yeah, there's
there.
a great Avi Arad and Eli Roth. That is a dumpster fire.
Wow. That is
sure
a
thing.
dumpster fire and a half waiting to happen.
And I like Eli Roth. That's the problem.
I don't like him either. I think he's a fraud.
I like Cabin in the Woods, or sorry, Cabin Fever, but that's it.
He got lucky with that one.
Yeah, Knock Knock ain't that bad. But it's just a remake, so it's not really an original.
And Hostel is him just trying to do Saw.
I hate Hostel.
Haven't seen it.
And the one thing that he did that had potential, he chickened out and decided not to do anything, and that was Thanksgiving. So instead of doing the actual Thanksgiving movie that was pitched and was shopped around, he decided we're just going to pretend that that movie was made, and we're just going to do a remake of that movie that's a bit more tamer. I'm like, that is pure, like, you wish you had the integrity and the vision of Tarantino, but you don't. So you're just going to approximate what you think that would be and then do that. And like that's why I don't like Eli Roth as a filmmaker and think he's a fraud.
I once went and saw a movie where he presented it, and Nick was there from the podcast to back this up, but he stared at me like he knew me. And I don't mean just like once or twice. He kept looking over at me. Nick's like, did you borrow money from Eli Roth and not pay it back? Because like the one time I met him, it was really awkward. I'll bring it. Folks on the show, remind me to ask Nick, because Nick was sitting right next to me. But that dude would just not stop staring at me. I'm just like...
Were you the tallest one in the audience?
Probably. And I also was sitting down in the front row. But it's like he just kept like... Every time he would like ask the audience a question and then go right back to me. I'm like, are you going to invite me up to speak? Do you want something from me, Eli Roth? I don't know you, but
He is probably thinking, I think that's what Jason Voorhees looks like without the hockey mask, and if he wasn't messed up in the face, because you're a big hulking guy.
That's
maybe.
pretty good.
I just wanted to meet Colleen Camp because she was in Wayne's World, and if you're in
Yeah.
Wayne's World, you instantly are cool in my book.
Yep.
Unless you're, no, everybody from Wayne's World's great. I just love how we'll talk about Captain America and we'll get away from it because, it's the new Captain America movie. But, folks, I will have a review for that on the 13th because I'm not spending my Valentine's Day going to watch a damn Marvel movie. But on the 13th of February, I will be reviewing it. I'll also be on the Side Scrollers that day. So join me over with Craig and Blabs, and then I will go out and see Captain America, and I'll let you know if it's worth your time or your... Well, it's really just about being worth your time. Money is subjective, but you can't get your time back, and some of these things just aren't worth it. So join me on the 13th for that review and a whole lot more. But I don't know what else there is to say about this movie. The merchandise is already in the stores, and I'm sure it'll be on clearance midsummer. That's my guess.
Cool.
All right, so nothing new from the audience yet, but guys, we had talked this week in terms of stuff because it's really not the biggest week in terms of news or anything like that. But there's word on the street that Ryan Gosling might be a part of a Star Wars movie. I think that's a terrible idea. What do you guys think?
This is actually the first time hearing of it.
Is this the Sean Levy Star Wars movie?
Yeah, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter.
Well, I mean, it's empty at this point because it's still going to be under the auspices of Disney. So whatever Disney wants, Disney gets, and any creative venture that these two would actually put forward, it's probably not going to happen. I mean, the only reason Sean Levy was able to get away with what he did with Deadpool and Wolverine is he had Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman to basically threaten to walk off the picture if they didn't get that way. And Disney realized that they needed them more. Ryan Gosling, he's a household name. He's been acting for 30 years, but I don't think he's got that level of power with Disney at this point. He can leave a project because he's left other projects that had other actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
this isn't meant to be rhetorical, but what the hell else can they do? Like, honestly, what movie can they put Ryan Gosling in and go, oh man, this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar picture? It just, I know Jude Law's not as big of a name as Ryan Gosling, but you're getting these names. You're getting these people to be associated with these shows, these movies, the brand of brands, and then you just... No, I mean, look, why am I even speculating on this? Like, 90% of these things get canceled, so it's not like this is going to happen anyway, but... Is a Ryan Gosling Star Wars going to be a needle mover? Because look at The Fall Guy. That really wasn't that big of a hit. So Ryan Gosling can be in movies that don't hit big.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't that big of a hit, even though it did a lot of things right for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it just comes to the fact that, listen, Ryan is going to bow out of this talks because they're already doing a Barbie sequel. And it's most likely going to be more heavily focused on Ken, even though the original was pretty focused on Ken, but Ken's the character people like,
and that was a movie that actually made money.
Yes, and I think that's going to be the scheduling conflicts that's going to put an end to this talk, because at this point here, again, Hollywood is at a standstill right now. Everybody is trying to gather around in support of the people that have suffered from the fires in the Palisades and from the northern neighborhoods there, Altadena. Sorry, I'm tired. But they're worried about, they're focused more on that. All the stuff with regards to talks, that's as far as they're going to go right now, because you got 5-10 minutes to say, hey, Sean Levy, how you doing? Well, Ryan, I'm doing all right. I lost my house, or my friend lost my house. It's like, yeah, so how are you going to recover from that? Well, we're going to probably put together another pitch for a movie with Disney. I'm thinking Star Wars. Would you like to partake? You know what? Yeah, I could probably use the money too to help with the rebuild and stuff. Great. I'll be in touch with your people and you'll be in touch with mine. See you later. And that's pretty much what the conversation was, because then get back to dealing with the calamity and the fallout and trying to get stuff back in order. Probably also rallying around a lot of recall signatures and petitions for various political figures in California.
Mm-hmm.
And also reevaluating their priorities again.
So I was paying close attention to the wildfires when they were first happening, but I have had my own personal issues to check out and focus on. But is it how detrimental to Southern California was this last one? Like, is this?
It's the worst disaster they've ever had, and it also might be one of the richest, or like the most costly fire and disaster in American history. A lot of a lot of these people had they may not have been making a ton of bucks regularly, but they had some incredibly valuable assets in their homes.
Yeah.
And then the property itself is incredibly expensive, even though a lot of people were able to be grandfathered in when they purchased their homes decades ago to not having to pay property taxes that scaled with the rent. So if you bought in the 1960s, whatever the property tax was at that point was what you're paying all the way up until now if you were still in that home. And those were some sweet deals. Clearing it out, rebuilding, construction, that's all going to be a nightmare. People are crossing their fingers that some of the regulators in California with regards to reconstruction and land development will be have their own hands tied so that they can't tie the hands of those people that want to rebuild their homes and lives. So, I think for the next couple months, things in Hollywood with regards to announcements are going to be much more few and far between than we're normally used to for this quarter of the year.
I'm not to be funny, but I'm glad I don't live out there for many reasons. I don't know. Everything about California just seems backwards, but
yeah, I mean, you kind of moved out there while it was in peak backwards thing. When I first moved out there when I would be there for every summer. So in 2006, it was a really great place. And then it started to slowly get worse year over year, but so subtly you wouldn't notice until 2012. You're like, wait a minute. Why is it we're leaving LA, we're heading to San Francisco, and I'm told I can't have the windows down when we're going through San Francisco? Oh, it's because there's a whole bunch of homeless people blockading a couple of the roads that we have to drive by, so we have to be very careful. It's like that's weird, and it sucks enough being in a car for like 6 hours as it is. You can't roll the window down for the last 2. It's weird. And then just when I went back just last month, some neighborhoods are really great and some were kind of like sketchy, but looked like things were kind of getting a little bit back to normal. And then this tragedy happens, and now it's make or break for these guys.
Do you think a lot of people are just going to give up and leave?
I know of a few people that have already left the state because they have smaller, cheaper properties that they used to do as vacation homes that are now going to be their permanent residence out of state. And it's going to be difficult because they were go-getters. They were people that knew how to close deals and facilitate productions. Now they're going to be doing that all remotely. And one thing that we've learned, even though a lot of stuff has gone remotely in Hollywood, sometimes when you're not able to physically be near the person to shake that hand and get a sense of who they are, you make it harder for yourself to close those deals. So I mean, I know Mel Gibson was thinking of not rebuilding in California because he lost his place. He was thinking about going to another state. But with the appointment to the ambassadorship by Trump, I think it's used as a means to kind of keep him around and closer, because he was bouncing around to, will he go to Texas? Will he go to Florida? Or will he go to Australia? Not where he was born, but definitely where he grew up. And he's got a lot of friends out there still. So who knows?
I've never once worried where Mel Gibson was going to live, but hey, I wish him the best of luck because I do like his movies. It's just so weird to me that he's appointed something in the government. Fucking Martin Riggs is now appointed by the president to something.
Well, I mean, he's got a movie called Flight Risk coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yep. It looks okay.
I saw last year around this time, I saw the rough cut of it. and I enjoyed the heck out of it. This is before the special effects and stuff. So you see the green screen or the volume stuff, in the plane window. If the cut doesn't change much, aside from the fact that the special effects, I think it's a small little movie that will do pretty well. And it's also Mel Gibson's directorial return in 5-6 years or so, give or take.
Because he did The Lobster a couple years ago, right?
I think so, yeah. But it's been a while. So he's back as a director for this. Then he's working on his Passion follow-ups, and then he's working on his Lethal Weapon 5, which he's doing because he promised Dick Donner he would do it. So.
Well, Mr. Gibson, the good people at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia have already done Lethal Weapon 5 and 6, so you should just honor their numbering and make Lethal Weapon 7.
Right. That's the only thing that makes any sense.
Danny DeVito stealing water is the plot of number 5 that I remember. I can't remember number 6.
I don't think I remember number. Is that? That's because 5 is the one where Dee blows up at the wedding. So
yeah. And did they do the character swap again for when they redid number 6?
I think so.
I can't. Yeah, because I'm trying to remember who. Yeah.
Because it's so funny when they switch midway through the movie.
Yeah, and one goes actual blackface.
Yeah, Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show used to be funny. You talk about something that lost the lead. I don't even know. I guess it's just those people got really...
They got very comfortable. That's the problem. So, I mean, they've been doing Always Sunny for almost 20 years. Like, the Mac and what's-her-name have been married for 10 of those years.
Yeah, Caitlin Olsen.
And, I think they just they got too comfortable where they forgot the edge that they have. And I'm actually kind of shocked that, I think it's surprising that the guys at South Park who've been doing that show for 30 years haven't lost their edge, but they also take breaks in between, significant ones, to gather and figure out and orient themselves. Always Sunny, I don't think has really taken any significant breaks like that.
I think they could take a permanent break, and I'd be okay with it, because there was a point a few years ago where they reached a natural conclusion, and I thought it was brilliant, and because they had returned all the characters back to where you first found them in a very natural way. And I'm like, wow, okay, I've never seen a show do this like this. Cool. I hope there's no more. And then it comes back, and you're just like, man, they really shouldn't have done this. But, there's always money to be made, and all those streaming numbers they got to hit, so It's Always Sunny is now its own little industry. But,
yeah. It's always running.
Yeah, well, I can't believe I want these things to go away. It's a very telling sign when something I love becomes a point of contention where I'm just like, why can't this show just fucking die? Because I'm not a hater. It's just
things can outstay their welcome,
and that show definitely
things can run stale. No matter how good they are in the beginning, sometimes they run stale and they no longer get good. It happens.
Yeah, it's sad when it does.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, well, that's the definition of a first world problem, my man. Oh, man, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
No!
Oh, this football team didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It's like, whatever. We're all alive, luckily, so. First world problems. But, yeah, I don't think Ryan Gosling's going to be in any of this. I think a lot of this stuff, in script, you're going to know better than anybody else here, but so many of these announcements just feel like desperation attempts to test the temperature of the room. It's like, oh man, what if we announce this big A-list star is going to be involved with Star Wars? That'll get the people talking.
Right.
I mean, that's what they used to do for ever, really. That's what the trades were for. Let's plant a story with this collaboration, see how it tracks. How does it track in Hollywood? How does it track nationally? It looks like people are interested. There's some buzz around that. All right, let's pull the trigger and let's get this going. I mean, it's the cheapest, most effective way to gauge audience reception and get data. And it's a bit, I mean, social media unfortunately skews that data greatly now because you can get bot farms, you can get coalitions of sorts, fan groups to come rally around and support the thing that general audiences don't care about.
Well, that's even trickier now, too, because you look at social media and you'll have, however many people singing the praises of something and acting like they're going to be, taking this next project to the top, whether it's a game, whether it's a comic, whether it's a movie, whatever. And come time to actually put their money where their mouth is and go watch the thing in theaters or actually buy the game and play it or what have you, crickets, nothing, nobody. And so I think a lot of marketing departments and a lot of studios in general are not looking at the right data, because social media is, at least to a point, a really poor measure. And we know this to be true because we can look at whatever movie or game flops that are in the last few years that were supposed to be big deals, and they were big budget AAA games, supposedly blockbuster flicks. Nobody goes to see them. Nobody goes to watch them. Or even on the streaming end, right? Like, if you were to believe social media, The Acolyte should have performed better than Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2.
It should have been the second coming, if you believe
Right?
social media.
Yeah, but nobody watched it.
I watched it like an asshole.
Oh,
Well, I mean, there's the other
yeah.
part too. There's the metric. It's what social media is technically free, and the streaming shows come at a price.
Mhm.
So you can talk the talk all you want on social media, but if you're not paying what you need to go watch and support those shows, then that's your divide right then and
Right,
there.
but that's exactly what I'm getting at, right? So
Yeah.
you have the marketing departments, and what you were just talking about, where you'll have people kind of put out feelers like, hey, let's just kind of like leak this into the trades or whatever, that this is something that we're considering doing, and see what the audience's reception is to that. It's become far more difficult to actually gauge that with any level of, not even certainty, just kind of reliability or accuracy, because again, look at The Acolyte. Look at just about anything coming out of Disney these days, really.
Well, it's gotten to the point where I would not be surprised if certain marketing companies were going to be putting out surveys, and everybody hates doing surveys,
Mm-hmm.
especially at the request of a conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're like, oh, I have this question, maybe I'll take a survey to see if I can get an answer out of that. That's the only time people want to take a survey. But if you're like, oh, you're subscribed to Disney Plus, and you're going through this and says, hey, please take 5 seconds to go fill out this survey about your experience with Disney Plus, they're like, skip.
99.9% of people are going to skip.
Because nobody cares. They don't want to do that. But that's the only way that they would ever get a metric out of it. And I think the rejection of the survey should be more informative than them taking the survey.
Yeah.
But the old school days, it was basically a guy out on the street, canvassing, asking questions, usually doing it in some sort of gimmick where they give out prizes or something, saying, hey, ask a couple of questions, would you like this Disney plush doll or this Star Wars toy or this Superman thing or whatever, and just answer honestly. And most of the time people will just answer politely, not so much honestly, but it's still enough that they can work from. They collect the data. They're like, okay, they care about this, they don't care about that. What do we have in the coffers that leans to the results we have? And if we don't, well, let's generate an assignment task, pitch it out to Hollywood, have a writer pitch their take on that. And then if it falls in line with the data that we have, we give it to them. And maybe they have the passion needed to get it going. After that, we find a director. Who's the best director that can execute this type of story that we know that's on our short list? Like, there are metrics that work, but they haven't been employed in the way that they're supposed to since before I started in Hollywood, and that's kind of tragic.
So is there anything else you guys want to say on this topic, or we
Well,
move
good
on to
luck,
something
Sean
else?
Levy.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't even think
No.
Mangold's story is going to happen. Mangold just managed to save his career with that recent film he released. So,
What was it?
oh gosh, I can't remember what it was, but let me quickly check here. The Complete Unknown. Complete Unknown is what he did.
Huh. Haven't heard of it.
It's the Bob Dylan film.
Oh, I didn't realize
okay.
he directed that.
Yep.
Okay.
I have
That
a
saved his
burning-
career, because otherwise he'd been stuck in director's jail.
Oh, because of Indiana Jones.
Of Indiana Jones.
He was
Well-
a smart man to start working on that before Indiana Jones was wrapped.
That movie was horrible.
Uh-huh.
Kind of deserve it. I have a strong distaste for Bob Dylan, so I will never watch his movie, but I'm happy that it's helping James Gunn, because I'm not I'm not a nihilist. I do care about people, but Bob Dylan's voice is like nails on a chalkboard. When you play that shit and that fucking harmonica comes in, I'd rather punch a wall.
Wow. How do you really feel?
If I ever met Bob Dylan, I'd give him never mind. Let's say what Strubbles 08 has to say. I'll take a Joe Rogan high as fuck and a sloppy 69, please. Of course. Well, first off, we'll give you the sloppy number 69 right here.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Yes, Joe Hendry is your new TNA World Champion, folks.
Amazing.
Celebrate. Yes, we helped. We definitely helped with our button here.
I'm a believer.
We waved our hands from side to side and said, I believe in Joe Hendry. He's so prestigious. Anyway, here's the button you requested, Shrubbles 08.
Imagine if you gave a white supremacist 5 MEO DMT, and then as the first one, as they're exhaling,
Yeah.
What a rush!
Well, there you go, Shrubbles 08. What a rush indeed. I've been having fun tonight, folks. We've all been having fun. Hit that thumbs up button if you've been enjoying this tonight. We appreciate that. It helps YouTube let us know, or helps YouTube know that you enjoy this content, and it will recommend us more. We are past 200,000. Our videos get kick-ass views. Let's get the streams to get some kick-ass views as well. Now, guys, as it's freezing out and the year continues to move on, I wanted to ask you guys, where did I have that lined up? Oh, yeah, Andrew. Are you excited for the Switch 2?
I am, actually. I'm excited mostly because it's, I'm cautiously but mostly optimistic. Because, for one, it's going to be backwards compatible, so the vast majority of Switch games are going to be playable on it. One can presume and surmise that with the Switch 2 being hopefully drastically more powerful in terms of hardware, we'll find out in April, that those games will also run better. So hopefully get some FPS boosts, hopefully there will be incentives for a lot of developers, especially if they developed first-party Nintendo titles, or like exclusive titles, stuff like Bayonetta or Xenoblade, that kind of thing, where they'll be incentivized to push out updates for the software that will further boost their frame rate as well as their visual fidelity being cleaned up a little bit. That would be great, because right off the bat, all of a sudden now you have this massive library to work with already, and then you're going to have the new stuff. I'm hoping that we get new kind of remastered HD ports of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, because those were on the Wii U, and those are some of the only games from the Wii U that have not been ported over to the Switch already. So I'm hoping that just means they're going to get ported to the Switch 2 instead. That'd be great. I'd love to live in a world where I have access to every single Legend of Zelda game on one console. That would be great.
That would be cool.
Really happy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Did you notice that the Mario Kart game that they showed off has up to 24 players?
That's gonna be...
That's insanity.
A lot.
That's bedlam.
Wasn't that like what the Wii had when they did their Mario Kart back in the day?
No. That's like, you're in first, you get hit by a blue shell, all of a sudden you close the race out at 20th. That's brutal, man. Like,
But is that the gimmick? It's just more people, because it looks identical to the last one.
it does look a lot like Mario Kart 8. Like, yeah, there's no question about that. It doesn't look any different. But then again, we only saw that little bit of footage from the announcement teaser for the console. So it's not like we've seen an actual trailer for the game yet. We'll see. I'm optimistic. I just hope that Nintendo didn't chintz out on the hardware this time in terms of power. Graphics aren't everything, but it'd be nice to have something that runs the vast majority of their games at 60 FPS instead of maybe 30 at best if you're lucky. That'd be great.
I just want something to feel like next-gen experience, you know? I was a little
Probably not a
bummed out.
Nintendo console.
Well, I was bummed out by the last Zelda, because it was a good game, but it was the same game as the one that came before it.
Oh, yeah. Tears of the Kingdom was just Breath of the Wild, but they literally used the same map, switched a few assets around, and then they added the Sky Island stuff above it, and then the Underdark below. That was it. That was all they did.
And it wasn't enough to be, amazing. It was a
Yeah,
good
it
game.
didn't excite me. The story was really good, but like just the world itself, the gameplay was whatever.
I want them to give me. I'll take an Ocarina of Time remake over, more of that open world, same map shit.
Yeah, it's too much emptiness. Oh, look how big our world is. Yeah, but is there anything to do other than I'm gonna climb that mountain over there? Climb that mountain. All right, now what? I guess I'm gonna climb down from this mountain. Oh, all right,
But Andrew,
congratulations.
Miyamoto spent 30 minutes climbing a tree. I don't give a shit what Miyamoto did.
I don't give a crap.
Yeah. I respect the dude's contributions, but just because he likes something doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah, that's not good enough for me.
No, I'm in the minority. I hate the Wind Waker. I thought that game was garbage when it came out. I bought it the first day, I liked it, and then I had to go search with the Tingle Tracker for all those pieces of the Triforce in the ocean, and I quit playing it. It's the only Zelda game that I ever bought and never finished. So,
Searching the piece of the Triforce in that game in the ocean. It's brutal.
yeah, I just didn't... I didn't have the patience for it, and then also, too, at the same time, it's like, I could play this cutesy Zelda game, or I could play Vice City. And it was really a hard sell to want to do these, like, cutesy, ugly, chibi, garbage, shell-shaded graphics, or I could just play Idealize Miami and beat up a hooker. Like, it was a way more fun experience at 15 years old, so...
And that's how life should be with video games.
I agree.
Versatility.
Your priorities. Yeah. Well,
Well,
I want to be able to run into the mall.
Play the games you want, enjoy the games you want to enjoy. And if there's something that comes out that doesn't interest you or you don't like, guess what? No one is twisting your arm.
Well, you know what the tragic aspect is that we've actually hit peak game development dynamics with regards to either story-based, platforming, or open world. What else can you add to those three?
Nobody's breaking new ground, you're right.
Well, what new ground is there to break? I mean, it's next part is being plugging yourself into the game physically, like the Matrix, and playing it that way.
I'll do that if I can pilot a Gundam.
I mean,
I'll buy that.
Well, the thing is, there's already games out there where you could pilot a Gundam. I mean, like they've had those for decades, at varying level of aptitude. So right now, you're only looking at two fronts, which is graphics and integration of how you play. Like that's the only places you can expand right now. So it's either you're going to get hyper realized graphics, or you're going to get a neural link that doesn't require an actual neural link, like surgery to connect to it.
Yeah, I'm not putting no chip in my brain. Sorry, Elon.
Right.
That ain't happening. That is not happening ever.
No.
I don't care how enthusiastic you are about it. Not happening. You can take that chip and you can shove it where the sun don't shine.
Right, but I'm saying like we've hit a plateau of sorts. It's the only improvements are going to be story narrative, but the engine's going to be one of those three, or there's also probably another one I'm forgetting. And then the next part is how real is the graphics going to be, and is it all about how real the graphics are, or how fun you can make the graphics stylized? So maybe you're inside an anime game, and it's a 3D anime game, or if you're a big manga anime fan.
Oh, that opens up a lot of possibilities now.
True. But it's just a skin compared to what you're actually looking for in the way of like computing power and whatnot. It's just it's crazy right now that in only 50 years we've gone from the basics of Pong to we've kind of hit the peak of what we can do with a video game in regards to narrative, open world, isometric style games, side scroller games, platforms, role-playing games, all those types of stuff. It's like there's no new model to invent. So when you get something like the Switch, all you're really getting is essentially repurposed of their classic games in a new mode with slight variations. Like if all you're getting for Mario Kart is extra players and maybe new tracks, what's the point of that compared to all the previous Mario Karts that have? It's still tracks, still players, still multiplayers. All the important stuff is kind of the same. You're just spending $60 to $80 on an aesthetic improvement as opposed to a completely different type of gameplay where When you went from like the classic Nintendo to the N64, that was a whole
or to the PlayStation. It was a huge difference.
Huge difference in everything.
Yeah.
So you don't really have that anymore. If anything, Switch is just kind of like a more computing power, same games with better graphics.
This I can actually break this down perfectly because I've been doing this since my GameStop days. Nintendo basically peaked with the GameCube and has just been making tweaks to that since that console, because the Wii was just a motion control GameCube.
Yep.
The Wii U was just an HD Wii. And the Switch is just an actual hybrid mobile and home console Wii U, which the Wii U was kind of the beta test for.
Yeah.
It's just an evolution of the GameCube. You can trace it all back to the GameCube.
That was the last time I was really adamant about making Nintendo my primary console.
Which, to be fair, I did love the GameCube.
It was great back in the day, man, but the big groundbreaking games of that generation weren't on Nintendo. For everyone that wants to say, oh my god, but Mario Kart Double Dash and Wind Waker, and it's like in Mario Sunshine.
Great games, but they weren't groundbreaking.
Yeah, it wasn't Halo.
Groundbreaking would be Halo Combat Evolved.
Or Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah.
Like, one of GameCube's best games, in my opinion, was like Resident Evil 4 or Smash Brothers or Metroid. Like, Metroid was a game changer in terms of like how you played a Metroid game. Loved it. But they've been cashing in on that same shit for 23 years at this point. It's like, oh, Metroid Prime 4 doesn't look that much better than Metroid Prime 1. Like, Halo nowadays versus Halo 1, big improvement. But the Nintendo stuff, it's always just a small increment. And people are like, yeah, but that's not why you care about Nintendo. It's like, yeah, but if Nintendo
I still want it to look good. Guys.
Yeah, I don't want
I want it to play great. I want it to play great. I want the story to be good. I want fun gameplay, but I also don't want it to look like ass. Right? I don't want it to look like it's 30 years old.
Modern television.
Exactly. I don't want my modern 4K TV to actually be an inhibiting part of the experience, because now it's showing all of the glaring imperfections and I'm seeing all of these pixels everywhere. Right? I'm seeing all the jagged lines. It's like, wow, y'all really did not try to put something out even resembling current gen.
It'd be amazing if something like the Switch 2 could play Grand Theft Auto 5. That would be impressive.
I'd be more impressed if it could play the original Grand Theft Auto for PC. Because if you want to talk about a really hard game, that's a really hard game. And you can do a lot of the stuff you can do in all the other Grand Theft Autos in that one. Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not as visually appealing because it's a top-down game. But yeah, you can steal a tank and blow people up. You can steal a helicopter and fly over the city and do some damage. And yeah, you can actually you can't do as much stuff with the hookers as you can in the current stuff, but you can still rough them up.
I mean, clearly the only reason I ever played GTA was because I wanted to pick up and beat up a hooker. Like, never, I didn't want to drive cars or do anything cool. Nope, hookers. But no, all joking aside, man, I used to love GTA 1 on the original PlayStation. I thought that game was, like, my buddy had it and he would bring it over and we would just run people over on the streets. We were horrible. But you know, you're a kid and you're like, oh my god, a video game where I could be bad? Of course I'm going to be bad. It was so different than running around as Mario going, woohoo, every 5 seconds. But I still love those games too. I just need variety.
Sure. I agree
but
with
I just
that.
wanted to ask you, man, because, you know, you're pretty up on Nintendo. And as much as I enjoy Nintendo, my Nintendo days as you know, it being the primary console are definitely behind me. But maybe the Switch 2 can blow me away, or at least entice me to buy it on day one like the first Switch did.
It's my primary home console, that's for sure. But beyond that, I'm a PC gamer. Like, I've got my Spider-Man Edition PS4 Pro plugged into my TV right now. Same with my Xbox One X. But I couldn't tell you the last time I turned them on. I have the Xbox still because it's a 4K DVD player.
Yeah, it's not the best one, but I use it for my 4Ks as well.
Yeah. That's actually the last time okay, so it was probably like 4 or 5 months ago when I popped in Godzilla 2014 to watch on 4K from that 4K collector set that I got that I've shown off here before. So I watched it on that. It looked really great. Like, it looked fantastic. Looked fantastic. Sounded fantastic. I can't wait to like get a sound bar or something like that to boost that even further.
Soundbars are the shit. I got Jurassic Park on a 4K special, so now I'm gonna test out how it looks.
Cranking that up when the T-Rex roars. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one's a great movie, man.
I'm waiting for a, actually, what am I talking about? It's probably already available, like a full 6-film 4K collector set.
It is. I
there's
had it
one
when I
on
lived
Amazon.
in California.
Yeah. I want to get that. I'll probably skip Jurassic Park 3, but,
Why are you gonna skip it? Didn't you see it twice in theaters on the first day it came out?
I did, because I was a dumb kid, I didn't realize until years after that it's not a good movie, but unfortunately I'd already seen it enough times on repeat that I have the thing memorized, so there's no getting rid of that.
I can't really talk shit. I saw Spider-Man 3 like 4 times in theaters just to make sure I liked it. And then I bought it on disc, and then when I was driving home from college once I went, I don't like Spider-Man 3. But that was like months later, and after I'd spent all the money on the video game and the action figures and this.
Amazing.
I had this T-shirt that I would wear back in 2007. It looked like that movie poster. I loved that shirt. But that is my, I'm embarrassed of 2007 me. 2004 me, I had better taste. But 2007 me, I liked Spider-Man 3. I am sorry. So, let's check in if there's anything to see with the audience. Yes, there is. So, first off, Aurora Uplinks says, everyone getting the brain wires, whether you want it or not. Gobble, 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 gobble. But anyway, have you heard of the new Star Wars strategy game coming out? I have not. Have you guys heard of a new Star Wars strategy
Is this a video game or a tabletop game? What is this?
I hope it's a video game, because I have a 100% chance of playing it compared to a tabletop game, which is guaranteed that I'll never touch it.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm not a tabletop game hater. I legitimately can't see the reason why you would play a tabletop game when the video game actually immerses you and gives you everything you want. It's like, I can roll a die, or I can like virtually fly my X-Wing. I think I'm gonna fly my X-Wing. So, if it's like an actual PC-based strategy game, point and click, I would give it a shot, because I have Star Wars. What is this? Empire at War. One of these I have. Yeah, Empire at War. That's on my PC now. The thing that we're broadcasting from. I love that game. I would definitely play an updated modern version. But can we get a Rogue Squadron remake, like a 4K, just remaster? It's such a good game. Hook it up, please.
They're doing,
Rogue Squadron was fantastic.
They're doing an X-Wing remaster, which looks amazing, and that integrates both TIE Fighter and X-Wing.
I'll buy that.
That thing I think is going to be free because it's a bunch of fans doing it.
I actually liked Jedi Starfighter back in the day too. That was a fun one.
I have that on my Xbox, because they were selling those games for $2 a piece. I did play Republic Commando for the first time in a while last week. That was a fun one.
I enjoyed that one when it came out. Yeah, I was going to say, it probably doesn't hold up very well mechanically these days, unless they, for the remaster, like, did some tweaking. But I remember that game being fun as hell.
Oh, it's very fun. I gotta say, man, for as much as I don't like the prequel movies, the prequel era of video games really expands the world of Star Wars. That's what you can't get today. It's like, oh, you didn't like Episode 7? Fine, but man, this video game's hot. That's not really a thing anymore. It's like, you can get the lifeless, soulless video game and the lifeless, soulless movie. It's like, you hated The Last Jedi, but wait till you play Battlefront 2. And, the government has to get involved because of gambling accusations.
Or Outlaws.
No, it's not even the real Battlefront 2. The real Battlefront 2 is for like the PlayStation 2.
I agree.
Yeah, not the EA newer one.
I also play Battlefront 2. I've played it fairly recently. It was a lot of fun, just running around as Luke Skywalker trying to fight Darth Vader and an AT-AT walker at the same time. I died, but it was great.
I died. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to act like I force-powered through everything right away. This isn't GoldenEye that I can beat in a matter of minutes. Take some time. But Aurora Uplinks, I'm going to check out this game because I like strategy games. I don't play it, every one, but there are the ones that I enjoy, and I will play for hours on end. I'll get a drink or so, and I'll be like, all right, I'm going to fight the Empire for an hour straight. And it usually tends to be a good time. So hopefully this new one lets me play Rebels versus Empire, and I'm there. But if I have to play as whatever this new crap is, or the Techno Union Army, I'm just going to pass. But thank you, Aurora Uplinks, for your super chat. Let's see. Yes, I agree. The OG Xbox Battlefront 2 is the best version. That's what I was playing it on.
Correct.
Let's see. PSP Slim. I had an original PSP. That was a fun system back in the day. Let's see. Did you guys laugh at the TikTok ban that was all of 12 hours?
Was it
was
even
funny.
that long?
It was almost a day, but it was funny.
Oh. Yeah, I laughed because I'm not a TikTok person anyway. So I have my own issues with the idea of the government banning things like that. I don't like things from a federal level happening in that regard. However, I understand certain, we'll say, reservations that people have in terms of like being tied to the CCP or whatever. Okay, fair enough. But I did laugh my butt off when like it got reinstated. And the funnier thing was like you'd have people on social media thanking thanking Kamala for bringing it back, and the actual Twitter account for TikTok corrected them and said it was Trump.
Yeah.
I laughed my butt off at that specifically, but beyond that, like I don't care about TikTok.
Well, I'm sure people are really upset that it's back because of who brought it back. But there you go. Have your 90-second clips.
It's brought back temporarily. They're looking for someone to buy up the CCP interest in it, because that's what facilitated the ban in the first place. It was, how do we protect the data that's going to from going to enemy nations?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe if we ban it. And it's like, well, it brings a conflict to like free speech, but it's also, well, if a technology that's under the guise of free speech is actually doing something to manipulate people's perspectives, compromise their ability to have free speech in other ways, then yeah, you're in a very new area. What do you do at that point? So the two options are: you ban it, or you put in regulations where if you wish to operate within the confines of this particular country, you have to make sure the data is not going to enemies of the people intentionally, as it is currently right now.
Yeah, no, sure.
So it's a tricky thing. I don't envy anyone in the tech world who has to deal with that. And also, that's why I don't subscribe to something like TikTok. I'm perfectly happy with X taking all of my private information and harvesting it for trying to manipulate me, because it has gotten everything wrong since I've signed up. And I am very happy about that.
I'm good with scrolling through my YouTube shorts at lunch and when I'm going to fall asleep. It's mostly a bunch of like Animal Planet and science crap.
Oh, don't even get me started on Facebook Reels. I will get lost watching the dumbest shit.
Facebook has Reels now? Oh, wow.
They have for a little while.
Decade, so.
Well, I think it's because they when they integrated with Instagram, when they bought that, they kind of like mirrored the Reels. So like if you have a connected account, you can post your Reel to both platforms simultaneously.
Oh.
Folks,
I
you
don't
can
even have
watch
Instagram.
WCBS Reels on your Facebook, so make sure you follow us and get it, because I make new content there.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's check in. We also had another message from Aurora Uplinks that says, "Gobble gobble, South Park episode where the creepy people say, 'One of us.' Anyway, yeah, I love Force Commander, but it's broken. I've been waiting for a new one." Have I played Star Wars Force Commander?
I can't remember it.
No say, man.
I have not played Star Wars. Oh, that's... God, the year 2000. Woo! March 21st.
Wow.
Old.
Yeah, Empire at War is from at least, what, 06? God, Force Commander, man, I'm just looking at the graphics right now. There aren't enough right angles on these people's faces. Like, I love it. These graphics are so dated. But Star Wars used to be at the forefront of every video game generation. It was like, a big part of the Atari. They had those, those games. Then you had, I mean, hell, Star Wars on Super Nintendo was really hard. All those games were difficult. Then Shadows of the Empire really rung in the N64. GameCube had a launch title of Star Wars. And then even when the Wii was a thing, those damn lightsaber ones, people were playing that too.
Oh
Yeah.
man, people broke stuff in their house with those lightsaber ones for the Wii. I remember hearing like, "Oh yeah, there's this new update to the Wii where it says before this game, make sure you clear stuff within 2 or 3 meters of your area."
Dude, they started selling the Wiimote condoms, or they gave them away for free. You remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those.
Yep. Here's the condom for your Wii. I remember that.
I pulled one out of a box recently.
Make sure to put your glove on.
It was all yellow. I was like, ugh, this is the cheapest rubber.
Oh yeah, they'd get discoloration pretty easily actually because they used a really cheap polymer and silicone combination there. I remember when I was still working at GameStop, you'd have people trading in their Wii's or Wii U's for a while there, and like some of the state that some people would bring their stuff in, man, it would reach points where I'd just be like, you know what? If you want me to buy this from you, you're going to take it home and clean it first. Because this is just actually disgusting. Not a little bit of dust or whatever. Sometimes dust caked in places like your disk drive or your vents. And it's like, dude, I don't know why you didn't just like go to Walmart and buy a $8 canister of, aerosol or whatever to spray the thing out.
Compressed air or something. Yeah.
Yeah, compressed air. But like, there would be like really gross crap in some people's stuff, and it's like, man, nah, I'm not touching this. You can take this home and clean it and disinfect it, and then you can bring it back.
You don't
And
like
then
when there's
I'll
guacamole in your PlayStation 3?
Dude, I've had people bring in, granted this was when I was living in Washington, so that might say something about that. I had people sometimes bring in consoles and they'd like literally set it down on my counter and dead bugs would fall out, and I'd be like, bro,
Ew.
like, are you for real right now?
Yeah, that sounds like Washington State.
I'm just like, what? How do you let that get like that? How do you do that?
How do
Go
you let
home.
yourself get like that?
Right? Well, considering how some of the people, never mind. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, it was pretty gnarly, pretty gross. I don't miss it.
Yeah,
The only
I
thing
don't-
I'm looking for right now is a DVD CD disc repair machine. That polishes off and gets rid of some of the scratches. They're usually good for basically like four touch-ups on a disc before the disc is completely done and you can't use it ever again. But if you can take care of yourself and you get one of those machines, you're pretty much set gold for your life.
But yeah, back when I worked at Game Crazy, this was attached to Hollywood Video.
I remember that.
We would have those machines and we would charge people like, I think it was like $2 for a disc buffing or something like that.
Yeah, the Disco Devil was the machine we had at Blockbuster. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and those things, I mean, they were kind of big, right? They were like this and this, but they were heavy duty. These were like industrial machines. They were expensive, but man, as long as you didn't have like super deep gashes in your discs, which some people did, and it was like, dude, I could try, but it's not going to do anything.
Oh yeah,
And-
no.
And I would tell them, I'd be upfront with them, like, man, like, you can give me your $2 if you want, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to make a difference. Like, you need to replace your game. But I guess to them, they were like, I'd rather, burn the $2 and give it a shot in the off chance that it does work, and then I don't have to spend $50 on a new copy. Okay, fair enough, right? I can understand that, weighing your options like that. But that just brought to the forefront of like, how do you let your discs get like that? What are you doing with your discs?
Well,
Play
one of the things
them,
that we saw-
take them out, put them in your freaking case.
One of the things that we saw at Blockbuster was that if you, especially for Xbox, if you somehow bumped into the table that your Xbox was on while the game was playing, it would cause the disc to shift and the laser reader would actually be out of sync and then just burn up a groove in there. Our Disco Devil thing was about this. It was about twice the size of a GameCube, so it was pretty big, and it was all on a timer. So you put it in there, you press the button, it does it for like 60 to 90 seconds. You come it out, and it's like, oh, it looks like a brand new disc. However, the one thing that they never told the staff and that we had to tell to all the customers is that if you have a scratch on the surface side of the disc where the stamp is, and you can see clear through the disc, your disc is done.
Yeah, no, if you've got label damage,
gone. Yeah,
because now the reflective material that it actually is reading that off of, it's done. Yep.
But yeah, finding those machines, that's on my to-do list for the next couple of months. Find a good one, good rating. There's just the hand crank ones, which I'm like, well, those are stupid. Like you can't hand crank a disc cleaner.
Yeah, that's the Disc Doctor. I remember that one. I think I have one of those.
Is that the hand crank one? Yeah.
Yeah, for
those
back
cheap
in the early
ones.
2000s. Yeah, I got it at like Media Play on clearance.
I remember those.
Now you need to get one with a motor.
Yeah, I remember selling those at Game Crazy or carrying them. I never personally sold one because people would be like, "Oh, does this work?" And I just look at them and be like, "No, it doesn't work."
Like you already said, I just would put my discs away. It's like my copy of Indiana Jones from 2003 looks like it's brand new.
All of my GameCube titles, like my copy of Sonic Mega Collection and Star Fox Adventures that I got for Christmas when I was in 6th grade, still pristine.
No, you'd been older because GameCube came out when they were in the 7th grade.
I didn't get the was it 7th grade that's when it came out?
November of 2001.
You're right. That sounds correct. But yeah, my games are still pristine. Like I just put them away, and I was a dumb teenager at the time. Even stupid teenage Andrew knew better.
I mean, teenage Andrew would probably be a laugh riot, though.
Teenage Andrew was a frickin' dweeb, is what he was. Not that much has changed.
I'm not going to act like I was the coolest dude in school, but I got along with everybody.
Mm.
I just was just like, oh, I know that guy because I played football, but I also did art, so I like hung out with the whole spectrum of kids because it was like you were either one or the other.
High school Andrew had shoulder-length hair.
Oh, you were a dweeb.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because he was a stupid teenager.
Did you at least take care of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, I wasn't one of those dudes that was walking around with freaking greasy ass long hair. I went to class with some of those. But
I don't miss the early 2000s.
No, nor I. I don't miss high school. Man, I didn't like teenagers when I was one.
High school was something I'm glad is over, but I wasn't like angry when I was there. I was just like, man, college is going to be better. And it was in every conceivable way.
Oh, yeah. College was so much better.
Yeah, college was, I dare say it, fun. Like, yeah, you went to school and you learned, but you also did it on your own away from your family. And if you were like me and Dion, your college experience was like Animal House or some of these other crazy. I tell college stories on air, but we lived through a lot of crazy shit. So.
I bet you did.
Aurora Uplinks, thank you very much for your super chat. I Googled and several mentions no one seems to know any details about it. I am excited. Anyway, I hope we can build some great structures in vehicles. I want to build the ultimate fortified rebel base. That's what I kind of do is I get myself, when I play these games, I do the resource mining, and I'll sit and I'll do it for maybe a half an hour straight. And then what I'll do is I'll build like everything, and I'll just have these ungodly powerful armies where we just overtake everything. It's not even fun. It's like, oh man, here comes a legion of shock troopers. Oh well, my super powered snow speeders are going to take everything out. So I love those games. I will waste 12 hours on a campaign if I have to. Yes, Rob, people did enjoy going to college. 2 of them are here.
Yeah, if you got into a program that facilitated what you needed out of it, you were golden, especially in the turn of the century. I don't know about now, if there's any programs really. Like my godkids all have gone to like various trade and vocational post-secondary education. So, stuff that guarantees them a job.
Yeah, but it was the Wild West of, hey, I'm going to go to college. That was kind of fun. Let's see. I took college way too seriously. Well, at least you graduated. I mean, taking it seriously is good. We weren't pissing it away.
If you're paying,
otherwise you're just wasting a lot of money.
Exactly.
And time.
especially for you guys in America, where college is obscenely expensive.
Oh, I know. When I was paying
I
for it
paid
for
for mine.
myself, yeah, I did too. I was like, I'm gonna get good grades because I'm paying for this shit. I don't have somebody like telling me, oh, you're gonna get good grades. It's, oh man, this is a lot of money. I don't want this to be a waste of time. So it wasn't. Made a
School
lot of
wasn't
good
even that
friends.
expensive for me, but I'm like, college, I'm going to try and get this 4-year program done as quickly as possible, and I did it in 2. And I
Oh,
saved them
That's
2
pretty
years.
quick. that is pretty quick. You save time and save
And
some money probably.
2 years of college tuition as a result of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You saved yourself the tuition hikes that are typically annual as well. So yeah, I paid my way through college for the most part, and then I had one small loan. Like one, and when I say small, I'm talking like I think it was maybe $7,000.
Okay, so a 4-figure loan. Yeah, that's
Like,
reasonable.
It was like it was compared to the vast majority of college students, nothing, right?
Oh yeah.
I paid it off all on my own, done, out of my life.
Should have been a small loan of $1 million, man. But you know,
Right? Yeah, sure. Never
let's
pay
see.
that off.
I mean, you could just sell your
Great,
kidneys.
like great grandchildren would be still stuck and saddled with it and not even pay it off.
I mean, does student debt transfer to your grandchildren?
It shouldn't.
I don't know.
It might in today's world.
In today's world, I mean, they want their money, right?
Yeah. No, there's some scams out there with some of the banks where you can basically leverage your life insurance to that, so that you can pull out as much as they'll let you, and then when you die, it's gone and wiped away, and whatever's left over gets a tax through inheritance tax to your family, your next of kin.
Yeah.
It's pretty skeevy. But if I had $1 million right now, I could probably invest half of it and get $1 million back. Because of some of the deals that I have pending in the industry. So,
Yeah, if I
That's
had
a
$1
good
million
bet.
bucks, I don't know what I'd be doing on a Tuesday night. Probably drawing. That's
Yeah.
all I'd do. It's like, oh yeah, I got $1 million in my name. Now what? Well, let's make another comic.
pretty much, yeah. I'd be writing another screenplay if I wasn't talking with you guys.
See, folks, that's how you know you got people with passion that actually want to do what they do. If you offered us a bunch of money, we'd still do what we're doing now.
We would.
Yeah.
I used one of my college loans to get a Real Boss car stereo, says Dr. Coffin Nails.
Oh my god.
Dr. Coffin Nails, next time we hang out at a convention, you have to tell me that full story.
Yeah, that feels like a story worth listening to.
Aurora Uplinks, thank you very much for your super chat. I once experienced an online game of Empire at War. The opponent built up a huge armada of Mon Calamari ships and dropped them on my base. Memorable. Well, the Mon Calamari...
Calamari!
I think they're the hardest ones to fight, though, because that's, like... The way the game works is, like, you have to upgrade, like, your base so much. And then once you have so many upgrades unlocked, then you can buy different class ships. Like, Luke Skywalker's his own class. But I think the Mon Calamari are the last one, and if you have a fleet of them, you're kind of hosed because there's like nowhere else to go. It's like go home one, and all the ships from Return of the Jedi just roll up and clean you out real quick. So, Laden Swallow, if I had $1 million gifted to me right now, I'd probably do very practical stuff as well, but I'd still keep doing my comics. Xavier to God says, all right, between Spider-Man, Batman, Wolverine, and Superman, you have to erase one from history forever. Who are you going to pick?
Nope. Oh, hold on, wrong button.
You have to. Let's see, Spider-Man. No, definitely not erasing. Definitely not erasing Batman. Definitely not erasing Superman. If saying I plead the fifth and I'm not picking any of them is not an option,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I will say Wolverine. Because I like Wolverine, but he's not my favorite X-Men. He's not even in my top 10.
If we're not worried about historical ramifications of erasing one of these heroes, I'm getting rid of Superman because I have never once gone out of my way to read like huge runs of Superman comic books, but I mean, I'm on the quest to collect every issue of Spider-Man. I like Batman and Wolverine. Hold on this one shelf alone, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Wolverines on this shelf. And then we got 9, 10 over here. Yeah, I like Wolverine a little bit. I only got 2 Superman figures in this collection. And one's from the animated series. Oh, yeah, that one's back there. And the other one's from Jim Lee. So Superman has the least amount of presence in my life, Xavier to God. But it's going to suck to see him go because I really do like Superman as a character. I'm glad that wasn't as hard for everybody. And I like how Script's like, nope.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Not entertaining it. Don't want any controversy.
Script recused himself, but yeah, I'll probably take some heat for whether it's on X or on Twitter. Who knows? Maybe there are weirdos who will clip the stream and be like, "Oh, he wants to get rid of Wolverine." Blah blah blah. Like,
are you calling me a weirdo for gonna be clipping the stream in a little bit?
I don't know. Are you?
I should. Don't you think?
You should get views. I don't care.
I'm gonna clip it just to spite you, man. Folks, in the future, if you're listening to the clip of this, you can find Andrew, and you can tell what you think about his erasing of Wolverine.
Yeah, dude, I'm getting rid of y'all's favorite character. How do you feel about that?
The '90s are crying.
The '90s are crying. I feel real bad for them.
I've been watching this YouTube channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe like religiously. And
yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. They went over. I mean, they've been going over stuff for years. R.I.P. Ed. But I was watching them go over some of the '90s stuff, and it was nice to hear somebody have the same comment I have about Jim Lee X-Men. While it's amazingly drawn, that first issue is really loud and noisy, and it's hard to follow. Because I always thought it was just me. And I had mentioned it to other people, and they're like, "Oh, Jim Lee's a great storyteller." And I'm like, "He is a great storyteller, but that first issue of X-Men is just so messy." And then these guys went on about it for like an hour, and I was like, "Oh, I feel validated." Because, man, 90s comics were just hard to read. But I'm the one that's going on about Wolverine being the best. Xavier to God asks, what's worse, Mortal Kombat Annihilation or Street Fighter?
Annihilation.
Yeah. Yeah, Annihilation's just like garbage level bad. At least Street Fighter's fun.
Annihilation, I don't know where any of the money went into that production. It looked way cheaper than the previous film. And, they changed the cast because a couple of actors didn't come back. So yeah, no, Street Fighter 96 far superior to MK Annihilation.
I agree with that. No notes.
Just the only thing I can say about Mortal Kombat Annihilation is I saw it in theaters, and that's the end of my statement. Aurora Uplink says you should listen to the opening of the G.I. Joe 1987 film. Cobra. I know the opening to that movie. Something in the sky, Cobra, Cobra. I mean, that was out before I was born, but I know the opening. I watch it for the animation because I know people think, "Oh, that's an excuse you would say to watch a kids show," but no, the animation to the G.I. Joe movie is fantastic. It's really well done, and it's all done by hand, so it's really a feat of animation. Up next, our friend Sjorgen says, from Monday Good Morning Pop Culture, coffee-based comic book character I remember was called Too Much Coffee Man from the 90s. It was a Dark Horse comic, if I recall. I always think of the guy on Mad TV. The Java guy, where he's got the big bugged-out eyes. I think he was played by Pat Kilbane. But folks, that's why you got to watch Good Morning Pop Culture. We sometimes get into these weird discussions, especially when Nick and Kendo are on with me, and we have some fun ideas, some hypotheticals, if you will, or we talk about superheroes that turn out to be real, like Too Much Coffee Man. I feel like that's something that would be a part of the Flaming Carrot roster of characters. Did I ever tell you I met that guy? The creator of Flaming Carrot, Bob... what's his face at a Dragon Con, how he was like the most intense but in a good way creator I've ever met. He wanted to tell me how basically he told me the plots of all of his comic books and almost spoiled them for me, and then he shit on the Mystery Men movie. It was pretty funny.
That is okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I didn't have the heart to tell him, I'm like, but I love the Mystery Men movie. Like, love it. Oh well, Salt in Theaters, had a great time. That was 25 years ago. Thank you, Sir Georgian. By the way, Sir Georgian, I got a shitload of those Dark Horse Presents comic books on Black Friday for $1, so maybe I will flip through one of those books and find the character.
Oh, that's
That'd
kind
be
of
pretty cool. Oh, dude, they're great. They're 3 little black and white stories, and the fact that I got them for $1 just blows my mind. Aurora Uplink says, Script Doctor, you ever write a script for Marvel? Just a new character or a new story for existing ones, or an Alien vs. Predator one? You should do one.
No, I got very close though to writing for DC because I had pitched Jim Lee a story back in 2015 that was also being pitched. I was also pitching at Warner Brothers for a television show, and yeah, one of the bigger hangups is the fact that my employment agreement with the United States didn't apply to published works; it only applied to film and television. So I couldn't get that off the ground, even though Detective Comics had a wing in Canada that I could have worked for, but they didn't want to go that route, which sucked. Again, internal politics at the time. Of course, I've been learning over the last several years that DC was not interested in also working with straight white men with some of with new titles or with existing characters that would start new titles and whatnot. So yeah, it was crazy. But that was actually the same year when I got to reconnect with an old buddy of mine who's a fellow writer who actually had this similar pitch as well. We hadn't seen each other in like 5-6 years before then, so it was just happenstance. But yeah, no. Listen, if Marvel came knocking and said, "Hey, Script Doctor, we want you to work on this character," I'd give it a shot. And then when they provide me the notes, I'd be like, "Well, the union requires I get a second step, so I can choose to use your notes or not." And then I get my 2 paychecks, and then you can fire me, and I'll take my money, and then you can trash the script however you want, because I know that the deal is going to be.
Well, I just like how you're realistic to all of these situations.
That's some pretty good maneuvering. I like that. I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to go Dave Callahan and just be like, "Yes, sir, sure, I'll just write whatever you want." I'm like, no, just ignore the notes, send them the new thing, you pay me. And if you don't like it, thank you for the 2 paychecks, and I'll be on my way. And you have to deal with Simu Liu in your own ways now. I could write a Shang-Chi movie that would knock people's socks off. And I'm not even a huge fan of the Shang-Chi comic book series, but there's enough stuff in there that I know what I can use and what I don't need to use, and make it work with what's currently been established with the MCU.
I don't know if somebody said, Jeff, you have to write a follow-up to the first movie that exists. Man, I don't even know what you'd do with it, but I'd give it a shot. I'd like to see my name on it. Aurora Uplinks, thank you very much, says, I'm actually impressed by the 87 movie. Impressed. In terms of G.I. Joe, I remember liking it enough. Like, I liked the Transformers movie more, but I bought that one on disc. But I remember liking the G.I. Joe movie enough that I think I must have had it on tape or rented it on tape or something. Because I sure as hell wasn't watching G.I. Joe in the early 90s because it wasn't on, at least in syndication it was. But I knew I saw that movie early on. Folks in the chat, let us know what your favorite cartoon movie growing up was. Was it the G.I. Joe movie? Was it Batman Mask of the Phantasm? Was it the Goofy movie? You had a lot of good choices back in the 90s. And then then Toy Story came out, and we got tons of CGI movies, and, well, it changed the art form, but it's still the art form.
So it's probably a toss-up between Mask of the Phantasm and Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
That movie's so good. I mean, they're both great.
But I also love Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero
that's a good one.
Sub-Zero is the Batman and Robin we should have gotten.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have it on disc.
Oh man, the story I could do for Mr. Freeze would make you cry.
Harder than Heart of Ice?
At best, it'd probably be as equal as Heart of Ice.
Ooh. I mean, I want to read that story now because I haven't thought about Mr. Freeze in a positive way in A long time.
Well, because of Paul Dini's revamp of the character, making him like the true sympathetic villain, like the type of archetype you would want to follow. There are two really good outcomes you could explore with that. One, I know that would make you cry, and I'm not going to tell you which emotion it'd be, but it would definitely not make you like angry. No angry tears. And then another one that would make you go, "Oh wow," and it would actually be a very cool story arc from beginning to end for Mr. Freeze. And it wouldn't actually get rid of Mr. Freeze as a villain.
Does he at least say the what killed the dinosaurs, the Ice Age? Can you at least write that one in there? 'Cause I feel like people want that.
Everyone,
that
chill.
line, I could make that line work, but it wouldn't come out of the mouth of Mr. Freeze exactly.
Cool party. Can you say cool party? That's
Cool
my
party.
favorite Mr. Freeze.
That's my favorite. I
Cool
freaking love
party.
it.
You know what I've always wanted to do is take the end of Terminator 2 when he goes into the lava and he sticks his thumb up and just put cool party over the top of it and just kill the emotion that James Cameron developed.
Why
in
isn't that
scene.
Why isn't that a button?
Yeah.
Fuck, I guess I gotta make a cool
Make
party.
the button, Jeff. Cool party.
I,
And it has to have that music in it right at the end.
I'm writing it down. Cool party button.
Amazing.
Next to
I need it.
I wrote this next to a shopping list I wrote a week ago. Oh well. Cool party button. There we go. I've been busy, but I've been getting a lot of shit done. It's it's fun to burn the candle at both ends sometimes. So guys, is there anything else that you would like to say before we go? We've been going for about 2.5 hours. I feel like we covered a lot of fun stuff. It was a light week, but we were able to have a good show out of it.
Just about as much as we could with how small a week it was, news-wise, at least in entertainment.
Yep.
Obviously, if this was a political channel, there'd be a lot more to talk about, but we're not. We're an
So
entertainment
yesterday,
channel.
folks, was the inauguration. How do you... I don't care. I do care, but not on this platform, because we are not a political channel. But if it talks about... if it intersects politics and celebrities and entertainment, well, we're going to cover it on the channel proper. But, Script, Andrew, anything you guys want to say?
No,
Thank you to everybody who made Bloodruth #1 over at the Rippaverse a massive success. That closed down last night.
Cool.
And thank you guys for always hanging out with us here every Tuesday night. We appreciate you. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around with us, and I hope you had as much fun as we had with our discussion.
Yeah, folks, we'll be back next week with another one. I will be back on Thursday with the podcast, and be on the lookout for new videos. Stealing Solo's in production, as you all saw on the toy video. I have a little promo for it, so be on the lookout for that. Updates on Wokebusters always coming your way, and it's been another fun week here on the channel. So until next time, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
You don't believe in the Force, do you?
Seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything.
Cerveza cristal.